it, man. We don't want to hear that guy on these airwaves anymore. With Alex and T-Bone on BK. Baby. Cardinals lose last night on a Paul Skeens night. That was an awesome baseball game. I'm going to start with that. I know that it ended up being incredibly frustrating for Cardinals fans, and we're going to hear from you throughout the day today. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. But hot damn, dude, that was a old school style of baseball game. You had two very different contrasts in styles with starting pitchers. They both went relatively deep into the game, given today's standards for starting pitchers. You have some good bullpens that are on display last night. Really good hitting that was on display late in that game. And then, of course, it came down to one roster taking advantage of their opportunities while the other did not. And, Alex, that's where we begin today. The Cardinals' bottom of the roster is getting exposed right now. That's what we're seeing. The Cardinals do not have a 7, 8, 9-hole hitter, honestly, in their lineup on a lot of days. And their lack of a bench, when you get late into a game and you have a lack of a 7, 8, 9 in your order, you need good bench options to be able to platoon those spots. And right now, the Cardinals just don't have those. I personally agree with the Cardinals, but whether you as a fan agree with them or not, Dylan Carlson right now is not a good platoon option for them against a right-handed pitcher. They don't view him as such. They do not even view him as an option. Because if you're not pinch hitting last night, Dylan Carlson in that spot for Michael Ciani, man, he ain't an option for you, because that's the only guy, that's the worst hitter that is in your lineup on a day-in, day-out basis. So if you aren't doing it there, you're not doing it anywhere. So, Alex, I think right now the lesson from last night's game is just how much the bottom of this roster is getting exposed, even when you're going up against middling teams from the National League.
Yeah, absolutely. You have 4 guys I could hear the argument for right now that you trust when they step to the plate, and that's just in your starting lineup. But once you get to the bottom of that order, and then when you talk about the bench, there's nothing that you can sit there and make a strong case for as to why this guy should have been at the plate. I'm not going to I can understand the argument for people probably thinking Dylan Carlson just had 3 great games against Colorado. Why aren't you putting him out there? Good. Why? Because I don't trust him. He's hitting 175 this season. I don't trust him in any scenario, especially a big moment like that. Well, maybe you should go to Brandon Crawford. He had some big hits for you.
What are we doing here?
We get angry when Brandon Crawford's name is brought up. So, look, I get why they stuck with Michael Ciani in that spot. I get why they stuck with Pedro Pajes in those positions, because there's nothing else beyond Gorman, Burleson, Wynn, and I could hear the argument for Paul Goldschmidt right now. And Oli showed you his frustration last night when Katie asked the question and Oli gave kind of the death stare and said, yeah, that's exactly where we're at. This roster is fragile because when you lose 2 or 3 guys, this team has no other answers.
Yeah, if you have to say Michael Ciani's our best option in a 9th inning at bat, it just tells you the lack of a bench that you have. That's just where they are right now. And it's a major problem for them because they cannot mix and match when you get late into a game. We hear Oli talk about it all the time, post-game and before games, about lanes, creating lanes for bullpen arms. Well, you want to match up better in those lanes. The problem is the Cardinals can't avoid matching up worse against bullpens right now. Bullpens have so many easy lanes, especially when you get to the bottom of their order. Now, I totally agree that they should have stuck with Ciani in that spot, but there's no better option, and that's where they are right now. They clearly need a right-handed bat that they can trust that can come off of their bench late in games. When you look at a bench that is Jose Fermin, you look at a bench that has, I'm not going to include Ivan Herrera. He's a really good hitter. They clearly use him as a backup catcher role. Don't want to burn him until late. And you got Brandon Crawford and Dylan Carlson. That's just not a good enough bench. It works okay when you've got maybe a left-handed coming in. As you saw, they went with Fermin over Carlson, by the way, who should be good against lefties. They just do not match up well when it gets late in games. They have to almost just hope that the bottom of their order does not come up when the game is on the line in the 9th inning right now.
And it always does. Because they're playing so many close games right now, because the offense is not good enough to consistently put up enough runs to have the game out of reach once you get to the 7th, 8th, and 9th inning. Of course it's going to get to the bottom of your order. Of course they're going to be up in significant situations, whether that's the 8th or the 9th inning. You're always going to be concerned as a Cardinals fan when those guys are coming up to the plate and they don't have enough options coming off of the bench right now to avoid them coming up to the plate. Now, I'm going to give the Cardinals a little bit of the benefit of the doubt in this regard. This bench would look much different if Wilson Contreras and Tommy Edman and Lars Nootbaar and Jordan Walker weren't all either hurt or significantly underperforming. And Dylan Carlson, again, significantly underperforming. It would look different. That does not completely excuse it. They knew center field was going to be an option going into the season. Dude, Michael A. Taylor, who plays on the other side as a platoon bat right now, not a great hitter. Not a great hitter by any stretch, but good center fielder defensively and could have been signed at the end of spring training for pennies on the dollar. And the Cardinals decided we like what we have internally. We're going to go with Victor Scott, and we're going to go with Michael Ciani, and we'll see what this looks like. Well, we've seen what it looks like. I like Michael Ciani for what he is. He's a excellent defender in center field. But, dude, he's not a major league hitter right now. He's a guy that probably over the course of the season, if he got everyday opportunities, is going to bat below 200, and he's not going to have a high on-base percentage to go along with it. He has speed, he has defense, that's it. That's a fourth or fifth outfielder on a contending team. But right now he's playing not some days, every day for your club because you need him to start for you in center field. That's where they're at, and that's what's so frustrating about watching them on a night-in, night-out basis. It is a very limited roster. It is. When you look at this bench on a regular basis, having guys like Pages, Crawford, Fermin, Ciani, / Carlson, that's not a bench, dude. That's a bunch of dudes that should be 4A players. And this is no disrespect to any of them. They have earned the right to be on this roster given their performances, and they're all damn good baseball players given the fact that they're in the major leagues. But if we're talking about contenders versus the Cardinals, that's where you're lacking. That's one of many places where you're lacking, but that was a big one that showed up for you last night. I want to continue in this way. If we're talking about the Cardinals compared to legitimate contenders, Alex, I was the one that said coming into the season, this offense is going to be good. I believe in them.
2004.
I think what you saw after July 30th last year, total mirage. You didn't have a bunch of guys in your lineup. They had waved the white flag, right? That was not real, so don't look at the full season numbers. Look at prior to July 31st. They were pretty good. Well, so far this year, they suck, man. They are terrible. They're bottom 5 in Major League Baseball in runs scored. I'm going to spare you with any of the nerdy numbers because we don't have to get there. We are now more than a third of the way through the season. We're more than 60 games in. And the Cardinals are bottom 5 offense in Major League Baseball. That's unacceptable. And if you want to be any kind of a legitimate contender, that is what's going to avoid you from getting there. Alex, I'm not even talking about getting through October anymore. Forget that. Let's set that to the side. Getting to October is now the goal for the Cardinals. Yes, I have lowered the goal for the Cardinals. I'm sorry, Cardinals fans, but that's where we're at. If they want to get to October, this offense has to start hitting. And right now, they're not doing that. And yesterday, you saw a really good pitcher on the mound. I'm not blaming them for not hitting Paul Skeens. Almost nobody has. But you get into the bullpen, let's do a little bit of damage. Let's get more than one run when you get a home run. Can we hit with a runner in scoring position? Just one? Just one hit over the course of the game? The answer yesterday was no. That is their biggest issue right now in terms of not getting to October. Getting through it, your rotation is a problem. Getting to it, dude, this lineup has to be better.
Yeah, it's why I have no faith in this team and it's not just Paul Skeens that they've struggled against. To me, that's the type of pitcher you're going to be playing against when it comes to playoff baseball. So I want to see you perform. But they've struggled against guys that have had career 5 and 6 ERAs, and they've been unable to score runs against them. There is only one team in the National League that has scored more runs than the Cardinals this season. One team, and it's the Miami Marlins. That means the Rockies have scored more. That means
you mean fewer.
Or fewer. Yes, my apologies. Yes.
Just making sure we're on the same page. I was like, damn, that's really impressive. I'm surprised by that statistic.
Apparently it's great. This is World Series bound. No, there's only one team that scored fewer, and it's the Miami Marlins. That means the Rockies have scored more than you. That means the Nationals, the Mets, the Giants,
the Pirates.
The
and you saw that lineup last night, dude. That's not a good lineup.
You're a run differential because we've talked a lot about the runs that they give up, but when you're only scoring 255 runs up until this point, when everyone else around you in the National League, all of these middling teams we're talking about have scored somewhere between 280 and 300, there's your problem. And again, we can talk about the bench. We can talk about the complementary pieces and how they need Nootbaar back and Wilson Contreras back. It's Goldie and Arenado still to me. It's Goldie and Arenado. It's that middle of the batting order for you right now. Nolan Gorman hits a bomb last night in the bottom of the ninth to give you life. And guess what Nolan Arenado does in his next at-bat? Three quick strikes.
We do the Cardinals bullpen circle of trust. If we did a circle of trust for the lineup right now,
there's 2 guys in it.
You could argue 3.
Oh, 3. Sorry. Gorman, Burleson, and Wynn.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. Those are the only three guys right now that I trust when they come to the plate. And it doesn't matter who the opposing pitcher is. On a night in, night out basis, those guys are hitting. They're at least giving you a chance. And Gorman's going to go through his slumps. We know there's going to come a point in time here in the next few weeks probably where he goes through a massive slump and he's striking out 40% of the time, hitting 150 for like a 2-week stretch. It's going to happen and he's going to lack the power. We just have to know it going in. But right now, for the last month, I think Derek Gould had this stat yesterday. The only guy in Major League Baseball in that stretch with a higher slugging percentage than Nolan Gorman is Bryce Harper. So you've got one of the most feared bats in your lineup going right now. And it hasn't been enough because you have nothing around him other than two other young guys. And when you have those studs, supposedly studs, in the middle of your lineup that are eating up all those at-bats, when they're not producing, this is a lineup that cannot get to where they want to go. And I understand Cardinals fans are sick of hearing about getting to October. They want to get through October. I get it. But the first point to get through October is getting to it. And the Cardinals will not get to October unless this lineup starts hitting. With Alex and T-Bone on BK, you got BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. In about 15 minutes, we'll get to get to NFL quick hitters. We've got Jordan Binnington joining us here on the show coming up at 12 o'clock.
Binner. Come on, T-Bone.
Looking forward to Binner joining us at noon. Going to talk to him about We Went Blues Day, get his favorite memories from that Stanley Cup run, from the parade. We also want to talk to Binner about how things have changed for him since that run. What is the mindset change for him that's changed since back in 2019? Plenty more to get to with Jordan Binnington. Again, all of that coming up at 12 o'clock. But coming up next, we've talked a little bit. We've mentioned the decisions that Oli Marmol had to make down the stretch last night. I want to break them down individually, Alex. Pulling the starter after 84 pitches, going to your closer in the ninth inning of a tie game in a non-safe situation, the pinch hitting decisions that he had to make or that he didn't end up making. We'll get to all of that, give you our thoughts on it next year on 101 ESPN.
Carter for real. The Renegade saves it. What a game in St. Louis.
Good game last night, but a frustrating one if you're a Cardinals fan. That is courtesy of the Pirates TV network with Alex and T-Bone. I'm BK. Alex, I want to go through some of the decisions that were made last night by Oli Marmol, because as you can probably imagine, fans are a bit frustrated.
Yeah, I hated them all, BK.
I think they
Oli
are.
is the reason that team lost last night. That was sarcasm.
I think fans are a bit predisposed to dislike the decisions that are made by Oli Marmol, but there were some that you could argue either side of it, honestly. Like, there were baseball decisions where it's at best 50-50 going one way or the other. So I want to go through these and get what your thoughts were at the time when they made these decisions. So let's go through them real quick, Alex. The first one, Fermin as the first bench bat to pinch hit, he came in for Matt Carpenter. Now, the situation was runner on third, 2 outs, scoreless game, bottom of the 7th inning against Chapman. So you got a lefty with a bunch of power on the mound. You don't want that spot for Matt Carpenter. Fermin, first bat off of the bench to pinch hit in that spot. Again, runner on third, 2 outs. Did you like going to Jose Fermin there? Did you want them to go to either Ivan Herrera or Dylan Carlson? Those were the other 2 potential right-handed options against Aroldis Chapman. Matt Chapman would have been a much better matchup for the Cardinals last night.
Probably still couldn't have
How
got
did
a
you
hit.
feel about that spot for Jose Fermin?
I was fine with it. I didn't want Carpenter hitting in that spot, and I know Carpenter, left-handed bat, he's got the pop, but in that position, you need contact and you need just a base
And
hit.
not against Chapman.
Yeah.
Lefty bat against Chapman is not what you want.
I mean, I guess I could hear the argument for Ivan Herrera, but at the time I wasn't thinking that. I was thinking Jose Fermin, like, he hits lefties. So if I'm going to put somebody up there in this position, I don't like any of the options, but that's probably the best one. I wasn't keeping Carpenter in the game, though.
Yeah, I'm with you, not keeping Carpenter in the game, but I for Oli Marmol, who's been managing with a sense of urgency, it feels like lately, part of the reason you heard a lot of frustration built up in a postgame in the Colorado series. I loved his pinch running decision. We didn't really talk about it in that Colorado series where he pinch runs for I don't remember who, and Siani comes around to score and they win that baseball game. Going to Fermin's not a sense of urgency, in my opinion. I agree it's probably the right call, but the sense of urgency is let's use Herrera here. And the reason I say that is because it's the DH spot. So you don't really lose your backup catcher. Now, the Cardinals, for some reason, view it that way. But no, he is still in the game. And worst case scenario, if you pinch it for Pages later or Pages gets hurt, you end up just losing the DH. You pull in Herrera. And yes, it makes life a little bit tougher,
When
but
we
it's
say
NL
lose
style.
the DH, you don't actually, like, it's not that you can't use a spot for your designated hitter there. You just can't use the same guy. Like, now you're just pinch hitting in that spot. That's it.
Yeah.
You're just going to a reliever, and they're not going to multiple inning relievers in this spot anyways. So the risk there is minimal. I'm so frustrated. I get so frustrated with the way that they approach us. Sorry, T-Bone.
Yeah, well, that's the only thing for me is like if you're not going to use if you view Herrera, because he said in postgame last night, like, yeah, Herrera gives you a good at bat against right versus left. Okay, so why is he not used there then? Why is he not used when you can potentially get a 1-run lead in the 7th inning and have a 1-0 lead to turn to your bullpen rather than be in a tie situation at 0-0? Because again, you don't really, yes, you lose the DH, but it's just old school NL style baseball.
Correct.
And who really cares at that point? Because, hey, if Herrera gets hit, I'm up 1-0. I may not even see that spot in the order again because it should be Jojo Romero and then it should be Ryan Helsley. Boom, ball game is over.
Part of me wondered, too, if he was managing to extra innings to need that bat. Like, hey, if I don't have to use it. No, I understand you can't, but that's what
Not when it's a scoreless
That's
game.
what my gut thought was. You don't want to use him here because we're thinking, oh, well, when we get to extras, we're going to need a big bat so we don't have Pages.
Yeah.
So we'll use him in that position.
You can't manage
I'm
that
with
way.
you.
If that was the case, and I don't think it was, but if it was, I think that's just, in my opinion, the wrong way. I didn't mind going to Fermin there if you're not going to go to Herrera, but I continue to be baffled by their utilization of Ivan Herrera when he's on the bench. It doesn't make sense to me. I grow more and more frustrated by the day. The next one up, and if this is the way that they would have utilized, for example, if Wilson Contreras in that spot, it would have been even more frustrating because there will be days where Contreras just has a day off. He's not the DH, he's not the catcher, and that day, for whatever reason, just needs a day off, right? And if they utilized him the same way, I would have been even more frustrated because that is the exact spot where you would go to Wilson Contreras. All right. Next one up, next decision that he had to make. He decided in the top of the 8th inning, I'm going to my bullpen. I'm pulling Miles Mikolas after 84 pitches. It was a scoreless game at that point. Gonzalez, Tellez, and Grandal were due up. Now, it's It's worth noting they ended up going to the bench. They probably knew that they would do this for Tellez when they went to Jojo Romero. So it ended up really being a decision of we want Michael A. Taylor to be in that spot, in the second spot through the order. Tellez had already hit Mikolas really hard earlier in the game. How did you guys feel about going to the bullpen in the 8th inning when Mikolas had been really good, did not allow a run over the course of the first 7 innings of the game, but had the triple in the 7th inning, ended up getting a liner that ended up being a double play. Really great play by the Cardinals defensively. How'd you feel about going to the bullpen in the 8th, Alex?
I loved it. Get him out of there. That inning, if not for Nolan Arenado making that unreal play for the double play, that was about to be the blow-up inning for Miles Mikolas, and you were potentially going to be down by 2 runs. Now, you got the strikeout for O'Neal Cruz, which is like, okay, we can get out of this. But, man, if not for Nolan Arenado, I truly felt like Miles Mikolas was going to have that blow-up inning. Even if it was going to be 1 or 2 runs, that felt like the moment where the Cardinals were like, oh, bleep, we're not getting here. So I thought it was smart by Oli to look at it and say, we got the double play. Mikolas did his job. Our bullpen is great. Let's keep this game in a lock so that we can hopefully break through offensively.
Yeah, I probably would have personally sent Miles Mikolas out there for another inning of work because he had been dealing, and I know that he had some hard contact in the previous inning. I just thought he had pitched well enough to earn another inning, but I don't have a major issue with going to the bullpen there. If you're saying Mikolas did his job at 84 pitches at that point, and those guys had started to have harder contact, and you think you got a better lane there with Jojo Romero, I'm totally fine with that. I don't have a major issue with pulling him.
I think this is who Mikolas is, and we just have to accept it. They don't think that Miles Mikolas can get to 100 pitches and continue to be effective. I think we've learned that at this point. 84, 62, 82, 79, 95, 75. That's what he's done in his last 7 starts. He's not getting as deep into games in terms of the pitch count as he once did, and that's okay to me. Like in this stretch of games where they've been utilizing him a little bit more with kid gloves, we've seen him become more effective. So I loved them getting him out of the game. You had an opportunity there to be able to go to your bullpen, which has been amazing so far this year. JoJo's been awesome despite 1, maybe 2 blips on the radar. And then you blow it up in the 9th inning with Ryan Helsley. And I couldn't have expected that. I know he hasn't been as good, as effective over his last 7 appearances now, but that's your dude. You go to him in the 9th inning, and we'll get to that decision here in just a moment. Jose Fermin, Alex, the next one up, or excuse me, this is the next decision. Ryan Helsley, scoreless 9th inning, non-save situation. How'd you feel about it?
Did anybody not like this?
Really?
Twitter was mad, dude. I was shocked. I was shocked by it.
I am amazed at that.
I don't know. Like, they
This is
wanted
old
him to go
school
to the
managing.
bridge.
This is old school fan base, though. You don't use your closer if it's not a safe situation.
This is the problem. This is when you use the closer. That's old school baseball. Is if you're the home team in the 9th inning, you use the closer in a tie game because you're never going to have him in a save situation.
This is
again.
one of the rare situations where old school and new school totally agree.
Yeah.
Like, old school
Why are
managing,
people
you use
upset?
him in that spot. New school managing, you go to that guy because you're trying to end the game now. I want my closer in the spot in the 9th inning, so that way I come up at the bottom of the 9th, scoreless game, and I go win it. Like that's the one place where everybody should agree. And yet, people believe that Ryan Helsley cannot succeed in non-save situations. That some fans view it as he's not as good when it is not a save situation. I think what we have seen, Alex, Ryan Helsley just doesn't have command of his fastball right now. And last night he had command of nothing. And when you get into that spot and you don't have your command, things went awry. I'm willing to lose with that guy on the mound.
Yeah.
That's who I'm going down with this year is Ryan Helsley.
I mean, to me, the way that he pitched and how you could tell that he had no command, that was going to happen whether you used him in the 9th inning or the 10th inning. It was going to happen for Ryan Helsley. He just did not have his stuff in that game. I mean, I did not have a problem with that at all. You're 0-0, and at that position, you're putting yourself like, let's go out there and make sure we're in this game.
All right, next decision. I think we're all in agreement there. So far, we pretty much agree with all of his decisions other than the Fermin one. The Fermin one, we would have rather gone to Herrera there, but that's just something that philosophically there are some differences.
Would it be interesting if this next situation we had Herrera batting?
So,
Much
Gorman
better.
hits a leadoff home run to shorten the lead, 2-1 Cardinal or 2-1 Pirates, bottom of the 9th inning. Arenado strikes out, looks completely helpless up there. Donovan fouls out. Now Jose Fermin comes to the plate. Jose Fermin comes up to the plate with 2 outs, down 2-1, going up against Bednar. Right-handed pitcher on the mound. You have some lefties on the bench potentially if you wanted to go that route. You've got Crawford on the bench. You've got Herrera on the bench, a righty, and you've got somebody that can technically hit left-handed in Dylan Carlson. He ends up hitting for himself. 2 outs versus Bednar. Would you guys have pinch hit for Jose Fermin there? Now, he did end up walking, by the way. It's worth noting that he got on. But would you have pinch hit there for Jose Fermin, Alex?
Hell no. Nobody that I would have gone to in that position was a better option for me than Jose Fermin. And I'm just out on Dylan Carlson. I don't think that was the better position for you. Brandon Crawford, no way. I would stick with Jose Fermin there. He had a good at-bat, but even in the situation, I looked at it and I said, yeah, you stick with the guy. You used him as a pinch hitter previously. You obviously feel like he's better than all of these other options. You stick with the guy.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't think you had a better option to pinch hit there. And I understand the only one that I would have considered was Crawford. But, man, the more I look into Crawford, like Crawford's been hot for like 2 of his last starts. He hasn't hit right-handed pitching for really the last
like 3 weeks.
And he hasn't hit right-handed pitching really for the last 3 years. Now, granted, Fermin can't hit right-handed pitching. So what I'm saying is
Fermin was awesome down in AAA. It's AAA. Yeah. It's not the same as hitting against David Bednar, but
I've seen the guys
I've seen the guys at the major league level.
I just don't think you had I don't think you had a better option. And like last year for Fermin, he hit 265 at the big leagues against right-handed pitching, got on base at a 375 clip. So like I felt comfortable that he could at least do what he did, which was a walk. So I have no issue sticking with Fermin.
All right. And then I don't think anybody had a problem with him going with Herrera for Pages. I think that was the exact right call. The only spot that you potentially would have had an issue with was them not using him prior to that when they used Jose Fermin, which ended up they got the walk. Herrera ends up reaching on the catcher's interference. And this is the spot that a lot of people are mad about. It's Michael Ciani time. Said nobody ever. Michael Ciani comes up to the plate.
BK says that.
Down 2-1. Bottom of the 9th inning. You got runners on first and second with 2 out. First of all, Ciani, if you're going to the plate, you got to wear it. Should have worn it. There was a pitch. I think it was like the 4th pitch of the at-bat, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And it was so far inside, if he just leans in like an inch, he's getting hit in the leg. Would have sucked. Wouldn't have felt good. Think it was a fastball, if I'm not mistaken.
At 98.
But
take it.
You got to wear that, dude. That is exactly what you do in that spot to turn that lineup over. You got Mason Wynn coming to the plate with the bases loaded, 2 outs, bottom of the 9th inning. That is exactly the situation that you want for your team. He doesn't, and so then he ends up striking out. But in that spot, Alex, the options for the Cardinals were stick with Michael Ciani, go to Dylan Carlson, who would have had to bat, most likely, left-handed against David Bednar, who is a really good pitcher, and that is not a spot that is typically successful for Dylan Carlson. Or you could go to everybody's favorite, Brandon Crawford.
Is he?
Alex, I thought that was a no-win situation. I did not feel like they had a good option there. And so any of them that they had chosen, I would have been like, sure, I understand the rationale here. That includes sticking with Michael Ciani. I think you can absolutely make a case that Ciani is a better option in that spot than Dylan Carlson, who a lot of people are saying, you got to go to Carlson there. Why? Why do you have to go to Carlson there? What exactly has Dylan Carlson done over the past 2 seasons to make you confident that he's going to come through against a power right-handed pitcher in that spot? For me, nothing. Absolutely nothing. He had a good 3-game stretch. And even when you look a little bit more into the nitty-gritty, the nuts and bolts as to how that took place, dude, it wasn't as impressive as a lot of people are making it out to be. It was a fine few games for Dylan Carlson. If you want to stick with Michael Ciani there, you look at what they've done so far this year against right-handed pitching. Michael Ciani this year against right-handed pitching is batting .270, and he has a slugging percentage of .360. You look at what Dylan Carlson has done in those same spots, a .170 batting average and a .208 slugging percentage. Yep. It is not hard to justify sticking with Michael Ciani there over Dylan Carlson, and I'm not even looking at anything that they're going to potentially do defensively in the next inning. So that was where I came out on it. If they hit Carlson there, I would have been fine with it. I thought they were all terrible options. You have bad options going up against Bednar. You're probably going to lose the game in that spot, but that's how I viewed it. Alex?
I would have been pissed if they put Carlson in that situation because Ciani was your best option to get a hit in that spot. I mean, just the numbers itself of what he's done this season against righties tell you everything. Carlson and Crawford are hitting below 200 with a below 250 on-base percentage against righties. I'm going with the guy that's got better numbers against a righty. I don't care that it's one of the better closers in the game. I don't care that he's got elite stuff, and Michael Ciani is basically a 4th bench bat. He's hitting better than both of those guys. So if they would have gone to anybody other than Michael Ciani, I would have been livid.
Yeah, I think it was a lose-lose-lose situation. I think Siani gave you the best chance. I wouldn't have been upset if they went to one of those different guys. If I had to rank the options, which, man, what a terrible three options
Right.
it is, I think I would have gone Siani 1, Crawford 2, Carlson 3. I think that's how I would have ranked it. So I have no issue with Oli Marmol sticking with it. I think it is one of those situations where if you are Siani, you have to know your role on the team and try and wear that fastball. But they don't have an option for that scenario. Once you burn Herrera, which they had to do for Pajes in that situation, or if they had done it earlier in the game, which I brought up early on, you don't have another bench bat. So you just have to hope that the lineup doesn't end up getting there. And for the Cardinals, that's exactly what happened. It fell into that black hole in the bottom three of their order, which are just easy outs. Exactly.
The game is eventually going to find you. If you're trying to hide something, it's going to find it. And the game found him. The game found the one guy that you didn't want to get to in your order, and that is... There's no shot against Siani. He's been everything the Cardinals could have asked for, given what he was expected to be this year. But when I look back at the decisions that Oli Marmol made yesterday, the only one that I definitely disagreed with, but I understand philosophically how he gets himself there, was the Fermin first bat off of the bench. That was it. Everything else, I was like, hey, I thought Oli managed fine yesterday. I don't think it was like next level managing, but he was fine. He pulled the right levers. It didn't work. And sometimes... when you manage right, you still end up losing. And yesterday it was a situation where Alex's favorite stat, their runners in scoring position, the lack of hits that come with runners in scoring position, that's what lost them the game, man. They scored one run. And that's how you're going to lose that game. Coming up next, NFL Quick Hitters here on 101 ESPN. Hey, it's BK. Did you wake up today not feeling quite like you did 5, 10, 15 years ago? You didn't have the same energy. You didn't have the same excitement. Your body did not feel the same way that it once did. Well, if that is the case, it is time to unlock your inner champion. And Victory Men's Health is there to help you do exactly that. You can check them out today. They've got 4 great locations across the St. Louis area. Super easy to get your appointment by going to victorymenshealth.com. And that's what I did last week. I decided, you know what? It's time for me to get my numbers checked, my micronutrient levels, my testosterone levels. Let's see where I'm at. They made it so easy for me. I went over there just the same way that you will and booked online. You put in your number, your name, your email, put in a little bit about what you're looking for, and they'll give you a call back and immediately get right back with you. It is a super easy process. That first consultation is about a week or 2 after you go in for that blood draw, and you'll find out exactly where you're at. They'll talk through with you what some of your options are. It's a great opportunity for you to unlock your inner champion at Victory Men's Health. Again, 4 locations across the St. Louis area and at victorymenshealth.com.
Terry Hendrickson here with a Sports Center update driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. Cardinals fell to the Pirates yesterday 2-1. They are back in action tonight. 6:45 will be first pitch. Sonny Gray will be on the mound for the St. Louis Cardinals. And today it is We Went Blues Day. And coming up here in just about 15 minutes or so, we will talk to the Blues goaltender Jordan Binnington. And tonight here on 101 ESPN, you can rehear Game 7 of the 2019 Cup Run. Blues Bruins will have coverage starting at 6 o'clock. And then we'll get into the Dallas Mavericks Boston Celtics Game 3 of the NBA Finals at 7:30. The Sports Update driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. See them at londoff.com. Chevy, together we drive. Are you kidding me?
With Alex and T-Bone on BK, let's dive into some NFL quick hitters. Let's start with this, guys. Yesterday, I came across this over on Twitter. I wanted to get your thoughts on it. Somebody asked if Ezekiel Elliott ended his career today. He decided to call it a retirement. Would he be a Hall of Famer? I think it gets into the question of what is a Hall of Fame running back in the modern era, but would you have Ezekiel Elliott on that list? Would he rise to the level for you of being a future Hall of Famer?
I don't think so. I think he would be the Hall of really, really good, but it would be hard to be a Hall of Famer for Ezekiel Elliott, unless I'm just misremembering where he was. But long term of his career, I feel like it fell off quick with Ezekiel Elliott to where, like, when I think of Hall of Fame running backs, I think of sustained greatness.
I can't even believe this was a question. Like, I don't even think he's close to being a Hall of Fame level running back. I think he needed like 10 years of what he did. He did it for like 3. He was a really good running back in the league for the first 4 years of his NFL career, and then it fell off a cliff almost immediately. I don't think that rises even close to the level of being a Hall of Fame running back for me. Christian McCaffrey, that's all. He could end his career today. That dude is making it to the Hall of Fame because of how great he was. I think Derrick Henry is a Hall of Fame level running back in my mind. That guy, when you went up against the Tennessee Titans, he was the dude you feared.
Yeah.
He was a good player. I really like Ezekiel Elliott. No, not even close to being a Hall of Fame level running back, in my opinion. He'd have to do it for another 4 or 5 years, and he doesn't have that in him anymore. Nick Chubb is more interesting to me.
I don't know if Nick Chubb would be because he's been injured so much.
I'm with you, but I think he's a more interesting conversation personally than Ezekiel Elliott even. At least he was the dude in the league, arguably the best pure runner for like a 4-year stretch.
You're not
I
wrong.
couldn't say that about Zeke.
Yeah, I'd agree with you. I think Chubb's more interesting because he had four straight 1,000+ yard rushing seasons. Zeke did not have that. I think he has 4 in his career. So I agree. Zeke's probably not a Hall of Famer. He's more of the Hall of Very Good. Chubb's interesting. If Chubb didn't get hurt last year and put up another 1,000-yard season, then I think there's the conversation of he probably belongs in the Hall if he retired then. He still probably needs another 1,000-yard season or 2 to get there.
Who are the guys currently in the league that you think are future Hall of Famers? Running backs. Because I think Christian McCaffrey, we can all agree.
McCaffrey and Henry.
That guy's definitely in. Do you guys agree that Henry is a future Hall of Famer?
I'd agree.
Okay.
I'm trying to think anybody else.
I don't know if anybody else would be, in my opinion.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
That used to be like the stars in the league 25 years ago. And it's just a reminder of how much the game has changed. But the stars in the league 25 years ago were the running backs. And now we can name 2, maybe 3 that are future Hall of Famers.
I think
that
some
are
have
playing in the league.
I think some have the chance, but they have to continue and sustain their. Like I think.
Who would you have in that category?
Josh Jacobs, maybe.
No.
But like you'd have to go.
He's
on
never been a guy that I'm like, get Josh Jacobs. That's really going to change.
Yeah. Well, I
your
feel like we say
trajectory.
that for a lot other than 2, and I mean that is the Hall of Fame. Jameer Gibbs is the one I'll be interested to see what the trajectory of his
just
career
so
is.
early.
That's the part
So
that
early.
you'll have to find out.
See,
but I mean,
what's his name in Atlanta? Why am I drawing a blank?
Bijan Robinson.
Yeah, very early, but
if he has sustained what they say,
he has the potential to be a not Christian McCaffrey because he's a unicorn, but like Christian McCaffrey Jr. to where it is he can catch the ball out of the backfield, can run for 1,000 yards.
that's what I think Jameer Gibbs could be.
Yeah.
A couple other quick things.
But their coach never uses him.
So one, Aaron Rodgers, it has been announced now, will not be at any of the mandatory minicamps.
The campaign's going to take that long?
For the New York Jets.
Dude, it's hard.
Man.
So that's something worth keeping an eye on. Another thing, did you guys see what yesterday Joe Burrow had to say? So Joe Burrow was talking to the media about his football mortality because of his wrist injury that he's been dealing with. Dude, some of the vibes that are coming out between Joe Burrow and Anthony Richardson, the quarterback of the Indianapolis Colts, who's already dealing with shoulder soreness during camp, something that I never want to hear from a guy that was coming off of shoulder surgery last year. I don't love the vibes from some of these quarterbacks around the AFC. You don't see Aaron Rodgers at camp. Burrow's talking about his wrist. Richardson's talking about his shoulder. Lamar's losing a bunch of weight. He looks like Alex and I at football camp right now.
Thanks, man.
And great. And then meanwhile, there's Patrick Mahomes, who's just chugging natty lights over the course of the offseason, looking like a bad ball.
And welcome to why he's going for a three-peat and none of these other quarterbacks have a chance.
Right.
Any of them are making excuses and like whining about things, yeah, you're going to fail.
Yeah, I don't get good vibes from Richardson because I saw Stafford deal with, I don't remember if I think his was elbow. But anytime you got a quarterback that deals with something early on in camp, just is very worrisome. The Burrow one, it's not even just Burrow. It's that whole Bengals team's giving off weird vibes. You got Trey Hendrickson who's like, I want paid, get me out of here. And they said no. And then I don't remember which wide receiver it was. One of them said that they want paid and they said no. I think it was Higgins, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. He's not at camp.
So, exactly.
Not. Of course
So, like,
not.
that whole team just gives off bad vibes coming off a very disappointing season.
Three-peat. Questions and answers coming up next. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line for an abbreviated edition of questions and answers. We've got Jordan Binnington, Blue Stanley Cup champion and goalie, going to join us coming up here in just a little bit for We Went Blues Day on the 5-year anniversary of the Blues winning the Stanley Cup. Jordan Binnington joining us at the top of the hour. But Alex, let's start with this from the 314. Guys, did you see the awesome Cards and Giants jerseys for the Rickwood Fields game? They look awesome in my opinion. We just saw these. I had not seen them prior to this text coming in. These are fantastic.
Yeah, I'll buy one of those jerseys. Those are awesome.
They're great. They are a recreation of the St. Louis Stars Negro League jerseys from back in the day. They look fantastic. I think the Cardinals, after seeing them on the field of play, I think they did a pretty good job with the City Connects jerseys. I like them more now that I've seen them more often. They were safe, absolutely, but I kind of like them, honestly. I think they did an awesome job in recreating these. This is going to be an awesome event. T-Bone mentioned this during the break. Major League Baseball does a lot of stuff wrong. A lot of stuff wrong. They've gotten it 100% correct with some of these featured games that they're doing over the past few years. The London series, I think, has gone pretty well overall. The Little League World Series games that they play is always an awesome thing, and this is really cool what they're doing at Rickwood Field.
Yeah, absolutely is. I do agree that baseball does this right, and more teams, more leagues should figure out how to do this. Like the Field of Dreams game that they did was one that really captured me. So the fact that they continue to build off of that, the jersey stuff is fun, but when they have those impactful games that have history behind it, that's how you gravitate the common sports fan just to turn it on.
And it breaks up the monotony of
Absolutely.
the long baseball season. So I love it. I love the jerseys, too. These were the first time I got to look at them. I love what they did with them. They look great.
Yeah, they're slick.
314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. Boys, if the Cardinals miss the playoffs again, what would you put the odds on Marmol and Mo being back next season? I think it kind of depends on how they miss the playoffs. Like, if they're just completely out of it. And I think the Marmol answer is tied to the Mo.
Yeah, I was
answer.
going to say both are tied together.
After hearing Mo talk, T-Bone, I don't know if you had the same takeaway after hearing him talk to the bloggers over the weekend. I think we're closer to the end of Mo than maybe I previously expected. I would not be shocked if Mo decides at the end of this year to walk away and your next president of baseball operations is Chaim Bloom. That would not shock me at all.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. If it's an ugly collapse and they miss the playoffs, I think then you're having that conversation. But if they miss and they like play competitive down the stretch and they miss by, like a game or two and they're like right at 500, I think you probably see them back for another year. I don't know how much Oli is tied in with Mo. I think Chaim Bloom would want to hire his own manager, but I think it just depends on how Chaim Bloom feels about him since he's here in the organization now. If he likes him, then he'll just stick with him and it'll be just Mo that comes out.
Yeah, I think Mo's going to be back no matter what the next season. Unless this team's picking top 5, which I don't foresee happening, Mo's going to be back. Mo's going to go out on his own terms.
He's Alex. That's T-Bone on BK. Coming up next, Stanley Cup champion, Blues goaltender, Jordan Binnington joins us for We Went Blues Day here on BK and Ferrario.
You want to see some emotion? We're Stanley Cup champions, baby!
This postseason on the draw against Bergeron. Bruins win it. Krug shoots it. It's on goal. Binnington, big save with Bergeron right in front. Nice puck control by the Boston Bruins. Sanford got a piece of the puck. It's knocked loose. They put it in front. Another big save by Binnington. He denied Johansson. Here's Tarasenko centering to Shen. He scores! 3-0 St. Louis. 8:35 to go in the third. And Braden Shen from Vladimir Tarasenko has given the Blues another goal. 10 seconds remaining. Get up, St. Louis. Get on your feet. Raise them high. 5 seconds to go. And the time winds down. They did it. It's over. The game is over. The series is over. The wait is over. And the St. Louis Blues are the Stanley Cup champions for the first time in franchise history.
Chris Kerber, voice of the Blues, 5 years ago today out in Boston, June 12th, 2019, as we celebrate We Went Blues Day here on your home for the Blues 101 ESPN. Along with BK and Tanner Hendrickson, I'm Alex Ferrario, and the man in between the pipes on that playoff run in Game 7, having one hell of a first period for the Blues, is Jordan Binnington, and he's joining us now here on our 101 Celebrity Line. Binner, it's great to catch up with you, man. First off, happy off season to you. Are you enjoying it?
You know what? Yeah, under the circumstances, things have been pretty good. I went away to the World Championships there, so I had a little more hockey in me, and it was an awesome experience, and it was good to be playing still. You know, the body still felt good. Mine still felt good for being out there. So it was all good. And then now my wife and I are back in St. Louis, and yeah, it's good. Can't complain.
Jordan, you heard the calls there of the Stanley Cup championship, and we are now celebrating We Went Blues Day. It's been 5 years officially as of today since the Blues won the Stanley Cup. What are some of the memories that immediately come flashing through your mind as you hear those calls and you think back to what that time was like for you?
Well, first of all, We Went Blues is I think that's an amazing anniversary name title, and it was special. I didn't really hear the depth of Kerbs' call there, and you know that's kind of a goosebumps type of feeling hearing that back. And you know, it's just such a special time to look back on. Obviously, that day was key for our organization and our team, and it's really just thinking back to what really worked and what was in sync for us to be so successful and trying to almost emulate some things from it. Obviously, it can't be the exact same, but just take the keys to our success and our relentlessness and our culture and instill that in our group now.
Jordan, it's been interesting to hear you talk about this over the years, and I'm curious, did you have the same appreciation for it in the moment as you do today?
In the moment, I to be honest, I don't really even remember the feelings as much. I was kind of just, you know, focusing on the moment and getting the job done, and which is, you know, being there for the team and finding ways to win. And so I'd say, you know, as the years go on, even more so, and you build such special relationships, and it's something that you want to do again, you know, especially while I'm still in it, I'm still playing, and you're hungry for that feeling. And I think I would say, yeah, you appreciate it more, and you know, your family, we're all talking about it. And so I would say, yeah, to answer your question, with time, you kind of get to enjoy it a little more.
Binner, you mentioned trying to emulate or replicate what you had with that team with the roster today. And although you can't do the exact same thing because different players, different mentalities, what were some of the things when you think back on that roster that you look at and you say, yeah, we got to find a way to emulate that?
Yeah, obviously, like you said, it's a different group, and every day is going to be different. Every year is going to be different. So, yeah, I would say just the winning culture of the total buy-in of the team and whatever your role is and may be for that time being, and understanding that at any point during the season we're gonna need everybody. So everyone's gonna have a chance to step up, and just understanding that doing your job is all part of the the recipe for success.
We're talking with Blues goaltender Jordan Binnington and Stanley Cup champion here on BK and Ferrario. As a minute, I want you to take me back, not to that cup run, but that regular season when you were called up. 26 years old. We've talked so much about it throughout your career of how you were in the minors. You had a taste of the NHL, but that was that real, like, you're up and you stayed. What was the difficult part mentally for you of 26 years old and getting back to the NHL and saying, I'm not going back down?
I think not thinking too far ahead is the key, right? It's just one day at a time, one game at a time, one period at a time, and just trusting that process of believing that the work you put in before getting there throughout your whole life really is hopefully coming together. And I think that's the key, is not thinking too far ahead, just being in the moment, was without even knowing at the time that was what I was doing. I was just, kind of fighting to survive, and I just, grew this belief in myself, and then, it just playing with those guys. We really tightened it up, and we played hard together, and it was just so fun, and we all just were, really, I keep saying it, but we were really just present, not thinking too far ahead.
When you think back to that time, Jordan, a lot of Blues fans will say the winning streak is when they knew that team had the potential, at least, to do something in the postseason despite where they were in the standings midway through the season. For you, was there a moment, I don't even know if you thought about this at the time, but was there a moment when you thought to yourself, man, we really could do something special with this group?
I mean, I still believe to this day that, you just got to get to the dance, which is the playoffs, and any team can win. Like, it's just about being in sync and playing together, and just buying into a system, and like we keep saying, the culture. And I believe any team can beat any team, really. So if you have that energy and that mindset, and you kind of use that momentum, that's how I look at it.
Binner, I had the privilege to cover that team from start to finish, doing pre and post that season. And I remember that group just had a ton of different characters, different personalities on it. It was a tight-knit group, but everybody had a different role to play. What's the importance of having that in a locker room for a full season?
Yeah, I think it can pick up as it goes, and guys kind of come out of their shell at certain points through the season. So there's always a couple guys that find their own along the process, or even in the playoffs, and I think it's definitely an important aspect, right? You want to keep it light in the room. Guys who shut down their first lines, and then they bring good energy every day in practice and every day at the rink, and kind of helps out with the guys putting the puck in the net on a regular basis. It's all a system, and it's definitely a big part of it.
Jordan Binnington as our guest for just another couple of minutes here on We Went Blues Day on BK and Ferrario. Jordan, I'm curious, how much for you has your mentality, your mindset, your preparation changed from that year back in 2019 when you were you're right in that wave all the way through the Stanley Cup to where you are today, where you're now a veteran in this league, and you've been around as and basically every night starter for the Blues for the last 5-6 years. How much has that changed for you?
Yeah, I think it's experience, and you really got situations to learn and grow and evolve, and surround yourself with people to help you. And we've had a great veteran group.
We're going to try getting Jordan Binnington back on the line. It sounds like you got a little bit of a bad connection there. Just a couple of more questions that I know we've got for Jordan Binnington here, especially kind of looking forward, where things are at right now with the team, as we've spent a lot of our conversation with Jordan Binnington looking back at the 2019 run to the Cup. Alex, you were around that team, and so you were covering them on a day-in, day-out basis. I remember I had moved to Kansas City, no surprise to anybody, right around the time when Jordan Binnington got the call up. I moved in mid-January of 2019.
Yeah.
And that was literally when Benner became the starter. What do you remember about him taking over?
I remember people not knowing much about him, but I remember people talking about how much of a gamer he was. I had a conversation with Panger actually when he was called up, and Panger said, watch out for this kid because he's in the minors. He doesn't like being in the minors anymore. He's got a rock solid mentality. That was the one thing that I was told about him, and then you saw it in that first game against Philly.
And so we go back out to the 101 ESPN hotline. I think we've got a better connection here with Jordan Binnington. Jordan, we lost you there at the beginning of that answer when you were talking about the difference in your mindset and your preparation from where you were in 2019 to where you are today, if you want to pick up right there.
Yeah, sorry about that. I was saying how, I think having the knowledge from our veterans, from Steiner, Schenner, O'Reilly, Bortuzzo, just, Jay Bomeister, just being able to learn from these guys who have been through those moments and experiences and able to share their wealth of knowledge with us, and just seeing their day-to-day. I think it's just a combination of being open-minded and the want to continue to evolve as a person and a player. I think that's kind of what we strive to be as athletes, and that's kind of been my mindset. That's been my mindset throughout the years.
I know you've talked a lot on the pre and post game show. They've mentioned this about your breathing exercises that you do. Is there anything else that you have specifically implemented that has changed since when you got into the NHL level in 2019?
I feel that I like to try things out and see if they kind of replicate. Like you look at, you're reading all this stuff on Bobrovsky right now on his kind of routines and preparation and stuff he does in the off season. And I would say for me, I would say just thinking, like even adding the game of golf into my repertoire there, just focusing on that next shot. It's hard. You take a shot, you mess up, but you got to focus for that next one, and it kind of builds that mental toughness. And then, something that I think that can be implemented on a day-to-day for anyone really that I've found to help would be meditation, and just adding that in when you can. And it's tough to do every day, but kind of makes you feel more centered and ready to take on the day, I would say.
Benner, I need to schedule 18 with you because I need to figure out how to channel that inner meditation, because when I have a bad shot, it's breaking a club and figuring out what I'm going to do without my pitching wedge.
You're also hammered when you're on the course.
Very true. Very true. So maybe that's part of it.
There's nothing wrong with showing a little emotion sometimes.
Hey, amen to that, brother. Amen to that, Benner. One thing, Benner, that BK and I were talking about before the show that I do find so fascinating about the in-game style, looking back on that Stanley Cup Game 7, you made a huge save against Nordstrom for Boston that really, to me, at the moment felt like, okay, this guy's locked in. Even Jamie Benn in that Dallas Stars series where you make that save and you're thinking they're not losing this game. When a goaltender's in the moment, when you make a save like that, does it click mentally for you where it's like, okay, we're not losing this game?
I think the key would be to not think about that. But,
honestly, yes.
Sometimes it might creep in there, but if you're in the moment, you're ideally not really thinking about anything, which is tough to explain. But
no, it makes all the sense in the world. All right, before we let you go, Benner, I do have to ask about that parade, because I was telling the guys one of my favorite stories. I mean, you guys had one hell of a time prior to the parade and then in the parade. I was working at the time trying to do interviews with everybody for the station, and I caught up with Benner. And Jordan Binnington at the time was riding a mini scooter up and down Market Street. But then in the middle of the interview, Benner, you had stopped me so you could grab these cymbals from a marching band player, and you started banging them back and forth playing in the middle of the marching band. That was the moment where I was like, oh, yeah, franchise goaltender right here.
I actually forgot about joining the band. That was, I'm a use what we got. And in the moment, that's a band. When else am I going to get the opportunity? You always wonder to see, what the hype's about, and it was pretty fun. Great day.
Benner, Shin was on with the morning show earlier today. Gunnarsson was also on with the morning show today. They said their favorite memory from the Cup run was actually that parade, and they didn't know what to expect, but when they turned onto Market Street, they realized this is something special. This is something a little different. What was your experience like that day?
I didn't really know what to expect. Like, it was all kind of new for me, right? Like, I was drafted by the Blues and would be here in training camps, development camps, a couple call-ups, but really seeing that day and the excitement and the energy of the people and the parade was definitely special. I would say the Cup day, like having your day with the Cup was really cool just for family. And, I got to bring it to both my grandparents' houses, and that part of it is really special on a family note. So I would say those two are definitely standouts.
That's awesome. Well, Binner, man, we hope we get to feel that moment again here in St. Louis. Appreciate you coming on and sharing some of the memories with us. Enjoy the rest of your offseason with the family, man, and look forward to seeing you at training camp in a couple of months.
All right. Thanks, guys.
There you go. Jordan Binnington. Appreciate it.
That is Jordan Binnington, Stanley Cup champion, Blues goalie, part of a We Went Blues Day here on 101 ESPN. By the way, I mentioned earlier today, Gunnarsson was on with a morning show. They had Braden Shin, the Blues captain, as well. There was also a really good conversation with Pat Maroon on the balloon party at 10 o'clock this morning. If you missed any of that, you can check out the entire interviews at 101ESPN.com or on the free 101 ESPN app. There's a landing page on the website right now where they're going to be posting the entirety of those interviews throughout the day-to-day. My understanding is that Petro and Parayko will be on the fast lane later on as well. So really cool day. We Went Blues Day, 5 years removed from the Blues winning the Stanley Cup.
Yeah, and shameless plug here. We're going to have David Perron on the Last Minute Blues podcast tomorrow. So we'll have an episode up on that to talk with Perry about those moments. It's something that, every year it seems odd to say, 5-year anniversary since we won the Cup, but when you swipe back through, and I know everybody listening has these, you've got pictures from that run, you've got videos from that run. It does feel nostalgic to sit there and look through and remember all of that. And I thought Binner said it best, like, you really do try and emulate what that team did. You can't copy it because it's a different team, but that's what Blues fans are doing. You look at 2019 and you say, this is how you get back to it. But it was such a special run, so many special memories, and it was really cool to get to experience it.
And the number one reason why, if they get back, they will get back, is because of the guy that we just talked to.
You heard him.
Like, that, the mindset that guy has, man, and the difference in hearing him talk 3 or 4 years ago versus hearing him talk right now. Like, I loved what his response was, Alex, to you whenever he was talking about that save. Ideally, you don't think about that at all.
The goal is you don't think of it.
And I think there maybe was a point in time where he maybe did think about that during the games. And I think that he's in such a great place mentally right now. Like, that dude is locked in. And I don't know how long you can sustain that. He's 30 years old. Like, maybe it's another 3, 4, 5 years. I don't know. But I'd like to find out if I'm the Blues. It's one of the reasons why, like, we've talked about, hey, is there a scenario in which you would trade him? Because there's a lot of contenders around the league that would love to have that dude between the pipes, because he gives you a chance once you get to this time of the year. And my answer is typically no. Because once you trade him, it's similar to the conversation we had about Petro. The moment that you deal that dude, the moment that you let Petro walk, you're immediately looking for the next version of that guy.
Yep.
It's hard to find it.
You've been searching for that guy in Blues franchise history since Grand Fuhr, and that was the 90s. So, like, you don't move on from that, and you're right. I mean, I still remember us talking to Mike Liu last year in October, his agent, former Blues goaltender, about him mentally, and he said he finally clicked this offseason of realizing I can't win every game myself. Yep. And that's, to me, what changed with Jordan Binnington. So you're right. Like, if you've got your best shot to win another Stanley Cup, Binnington's going to be the guy that either gets you there or is the guy that helps groom the young goaltender that gets you there.
Stuff he said about the culture, by the way, don't set that aside either. Yep. And what I mean by that is that guy can be part of a culture setter. He can be one of the players that implement that into your locker room as well. For Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. Coming up next, 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. You give us two scenarios. We'll tell you which one's more likely. It's a game we like to call More Likely to Happen here on 101 ESPN.
You want to see some emotion? We're Stanley Cup champions, baby!
Alex, the reason why I bet on Circus Sports is because I'm getting the best odds possible. And a little bit can go a long way. That juice that they have at some of these other sites, it's just not worth the squeeze, so to speak. So when I'm betting on the NBA Finals and the Stanley Cup Final, I'm looking at Dallas and Edmonton. I think both teams that are going home are going to be able to come out with a win in their next game. Dallas -2.5, Edmonton on the money line. Now, if I put a bet over on the FanDuel Sportsbook, for example, $100 wins me $230. If I do that exact same bet, -2.5 for the Mavs, straight up for the Oilers, $100 wins me $240 on the Circa Sports app. It's $10 extra, and that goes a long way. My odds over time, I'm increasing my winnings with the Circa Sports app.
How rare is it to have a sports betting app tell you to go shop other sports betting apps? The reason they do that is because they know you will be back when it comes to those large market bets, when it comes to the tight splits that PK was talking about. You get all of it with Circa Sports Illinois. They're confident you'll come back to get those best odds. So make sure you check it out. Download it today. If you or someone you know may have a problem with gambling, call 1-800-GAMBLER or text ILGAMB to 833-234.
Ooh, 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line for more likely to happen. You give us two scenarios. We will tell you which one is more likely here on BK and Ferrario. Alex, I've got a more likely to happen in terms of the outfield for
I thought you were just going to say you have one. Me too, man.
More likely
Still working on mine.
to be in the Cardinals starting outfield next year. Dylan Carlson or Alec Burleson?
Alec Burleson. That's easy for me. You're not. I don't think.
Hold on, pause. Time out. How is Carlson making this outfield as a starter next year?
Are you kidding me?
I think there are a lot of people that are still believers in Dylan Carlson.
They'll make him the center fielder.
I don't totally understand why or what people are clinging to. Because I liked Dylan Carlson in 2021. We all liked Dylan Carlson in 2021. Good player. Had a great season. A very good season, especially for a rookie. Was top 5 in rookie voting that year. That being said, dude, since then, he has not been the same player. There's been a lot of injuries. I do wonder, seriously, if those injuries have sapped his power, and he's just not the same guy because of injuries, similar to how Alex Reyes wasn't the same pitcher because of injuries. Jack Flaherty wasn't the same pitcher because of injuries. And so, like, I'm with you. I don't think he is a starting outfielder. So my more likely to happen, I would go Alec Burleson, no doubt about it. But I think there are some that are still holding out hope for Dylan Carlson because I get a lot of pushback anytime that I speak about Dylan Carlson as just a fourth outfielder and nothing more.
If John Mozeliak is still here, there is a realistic chance Dylan Carlson's got a shot at this outfield. I think that is an easy answer for me, but I would go Burleson over it because Burleson has proved to me that not only his bat needs to be in the lineup every single game, he can be a good defensive player for you. Not great, but a good defensive player.
I would say more likely Burley, but my counter to even if Mo is here, they planned on Carlson being the fourth outfielder. And he'd almost have to, sorry, Oli, I don't want to make this happen. He'd have to fire Oli Marmol to get Carlson as a starter.
I think it's clear Oli doesn't happen before.
It's obvious that Carlson is not a guy that Oli Marmol trusts. And honestly, I don't blame him. You know why? Because I've watched the games just like Oli. And anybody that's watched the game should know Carlson's not a big leaguer. That's just as simple as it is. Sorry, you got me a little angry.
Why are you getting angry, man? Calm down over there.
I'm tired of hearing about
Carlson's
Carlson.
just a pro player.
The other thing is, like, Burley's probably your first baseman next year. Yeah. So, like, the chances are also pretty strong that Burleson has no chance to be in your outfield. So even if it's 2%, maybe that happens.
0% with
Alex,
Carlson. More likely to happen, fellas. Now, I'm going to preface this by saying a wild card round doesn't count. More likely to happen. Binnington is a part of a series victory in the playoffs, or Nolan Arenado as a part of a series victory in the playoffs for the Cardinals before their end of their contract.
I would go Benner. I would go Benner. Just because I think it is more likely that Benner is around for longer, and I don't know. I don't know what Arenado's future is here in St. Louis, and I also don't know what the Cardinals' immediate future is as a team. And if you're not including the wild card round, that means that they are required to get to the DS and then win in the DS with Arenado as a part of it.
And the reason I did no wild card is because, like, wild card, we're talking. It's best of 5 is I feel like the equivalent of winning 7 games in an NHL playoff round.
I'll go Benner.
I think I would go Benner as well.
I think it's close though.
I do too, because I think you're probably, 2 years away for the Blues being a team that, maybe they sneak in and win a series, but I think 2 years away till I can really look at them as a team that could win a series. So that's why I would say it's more likely him, just because I don't know about the Cardinals and what the hell their direction actually is.
What?
T-Bone?
Yeah. Guys, more likely to happen. Someone in the current rotation would start game 2 of a playoff series for the will start game 2 of a playoff series for the Cardinals, or someone outside the organization will.
I would
a jumble.
I will. Here's a fun one for you. Someone outside of the organization, because in order to get to that game 2, they will need somebody from outside of the organization to be added to the rotation.
Funny that you believe that, because the guy they're going to enter the rotation is a number 5, so I'll say in the rotation.
That might be good enough.
Your game 2 starter is going to be Miles Mikolas.
Yeah.
And God, that's going to be rough.
I'm going to say more likely that someone that's currently in the rotation will start a game 2 in the playoffs
Steven
for
Matz.
them.
Andre Palante.
No, I think it would be one of Mikolas or Gibson, and I think it's telling. No offense, Kyle, that Gibson's never started a playoff game, and the Cardinals could look at that and go, "That's our guy."
If there's any offense, it should be Lance Lynn.
All right, more likely to happen. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. More likely to happen, guys. The Cardinals miss the playoffs or make the NLCS. I know where you guys stand
miss
on
the
this.
playoffs.
Miss the playoffs.
It's funny that you think they can win 2
Make
rounds.
The NLCS.
Yeah, it's missed the playoffs. More likely to happen, the Blues make a surprise trade or a surprise buyout.
Oh, trade. I do not see a buyout happening.
I don't see the reason for it.
Yeah, the only buyout
just
you
doesn't make sense.
would do is Kevin Hayes, but even that,
Eat some salary.
Why?
eat some salary and you could get a 3rd, 4th round pick for it.
And why? Like, what are you trying to get with that
you put
$1
him up.
million in
Yeah.
cap space? The cap is not a problem for the Blues this offseason, and that's why teams buy people out.
Yeah.
If the Blues had a cap constraint that they were worried about, we could talk about this. But that's not for another 2 or 3
And
years.
I'm not jeopardizing, because I know probably the texter's thinking Torrey Krug or Justin Falk. I'm not jeopardizing how much cap space I'm going to have within a couple of years to buy somebody out now that I could just use on a 3rd pair and figure out what to do moving forward.
Totally agree.
Yeah, I'd say more likely it's a surprise trade, because I just don't think a buyout makes sense.
I think there's a lot of teams that could be surprise trade candidates, too. I think there's going to be a lot more teams that we're not giving credit
Did you see
to.
the New York Rangers stuff yesterday?
Yeah, dude. First of all, Larry Brooks likes to throw things at the fan to see what sticks. With
I like
the
that. I
reporters.
hope Chris Kreider sticks to the Blues wall.
Would you seriously and like put the fandom aside, because I know you love schnoz out there.
kidding me?
He's $6.5 million. He's 32 years old, and he's got 3 more years.
Yeah, I would
I've
do
heard
that.
age is but a number.
Are you being serious? Are you actually asking would I do that? Yes.
I'm seriously asking, because he doesn't
he
fit in
makes
your
no sense for the
he
Blues.
doesn't fit
but
in your
would I do it?
timeline.
Of course I would.
Like
Somebody
somebody
about a consistent 30-plus goal scorer that plays the exact style that the Blues are missing, stands in front of the net. You can put him on the right wing with Robert Thomas, and now I've got a top line that makes sense.
Did you trade
Yes.
Booch for him?
Yes. Booch wouldn't go back there.
I don't think I would.
Really?
I don't think he plays into your timeline. I think by the time he's out of it, you're going to have to probably pay him $5 or $6 million, and
Dude,
I think he's going to be
Thomas and Kyrou, that's a top line you can win with.
Can I be honest? I think Neighbors could be a Chris Kreider.
Oh, I don't know that he's got this in him.
Man,
And that's no shot against him.
You said you didn't think he had this, what he just did this past season in
100%.
him.
It took a while for Kreider to become this, so maybe he does, and maybe it's he is a power play unit by himself.
Yeah, I'll tell you the one
Over the
that's
past 3 seasons, he has 50 power play goals.
I'll
We
tell
didn't
you.
have a power play unit with 5 guys.
I'll tell you the one that'll be tough for them to move is Mika Zibanejad. Dude's making like $9 million, and by the end of it, I think he's going to be like 39, 40 years old.
That's the guy I would not trade for.
Yeah.
Not for the Blues.
Jacob Trouba I would trade for also, but he's getting paid a lot of money.
I would trade for him.
I would too. I think that dude brings the pissed off energy that you need on your. That's a number 1 defenseman.
Yeah. What do they want? He's 30, but I don't care. I'll take that.
Give you Torrey Krug. It's fine. Right.
All right, 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line for more likely to happen.
like
Somebody
it.
said, by the way, what is this Rangers report you guys are talking about? I should have referenced that.
Amateur.
Brooks.
Larry Brooks with the New York Post.
He wrote yesterday that the Rangers are on the precipice of having to make some really hard decisions this offseason because their current build is not working. They're good, but not great, and they've got to find a way to change things up.
Yeah.
So he's essentially saying the guys that we just mentioned there, Trouba, Kreider, Zibanejad, one of those three could potentially be on the move this offseason. Now, he used a lot of qualifiers.
Yes.
But that was essentially what he was talking
Yeah, the whole article started with him talking about the necessity of needing to trade this Capo Caco because he's not a number 2 overall pick potential, and they need to move on from that. But he said that's not the problem. The problem are your big players.
All right, more likely to happen. The Cardinals sell Goldie at the deadline or extend him in the offseason.
I would say extend him because I don't see them selling him because you're not going to get much. And by extend him, I think the only way you extend him is it's a team-friendly deal.
Get out. Nah, you got to get out of this.
No, I'm with you, but I don't see them selling him. They're not going to get anything that they deem as useful for Paul Goldschmidt, and they're thinking, well, we got a future Red Jacket member.
Yeah, I would say more likely they sell him. I just don't see a scenario where he comes back. Tinfoil theory, I wonder if Goldie retires at the end of the year. That's kind of my tinfoil. But I don't see Paul Goldschmidt signing an extension in St. Louis. It just doesn't make sense when I can look at Alec Burleson and go, sure, I don't get as good defensive value, but I get a better bat at this point in his career.
The Cardinals, by the way, like Goldie has been was so bad for the first month and a half of the season. In his last 26 games, Cardinals are 16-10. They have the second best record in the National League. He's batting .270 with a .335 on base percentage and an OPS of 800. That's pretty good. That's like totally acceptable for a secondary hitter in the middle of your order. And yet, on the season, he's batting .225 with a .301 on base percentage and a .345 slug. He was so bad to start out the year that it is going to take months of being a really good hitter to even get back to respectable numbers. I was looking at this yesterday, Alex. His numbers are still worse than Nolan Arenado's. And he's been significantly better than Nolan Arenado for a month now. And it just doesn't matter because of how bad he was at that point when he was batting .190 with a .275 on base percentage and a .250 slug. It took forever to get out of that hole, and he's still not out of it. So, yeah, I think it's more likely that they decide to trade him at the deadline. I think you have to be honest about where you're at right now as a team. He's Alex's T-Bone. I'm BK. Coming up next, speaking of good hitters, Alec Burleson is sure one of those. He is the rare Cardinals player that I have faith in right now, Alex, to hit against good pitching. We'll talk a little bit about Burleson's development next year on 101 ESPN.
Alex Ferrario with you to talk about my friends over at Classic Air Care who've been making people comfortable since 1926. My family's been using Classic Air Care for how much I can remember, but for me, been using it since 2016 when I purchased my first home. They've taken care of an old unit that I had in my first home, and then, of course, the one that we have right now. Here's why I love Classic Air Care, because, one, their maintenance program, I think, is incredible. They're always out there every 6 months, checking it, fine-tuning it, make sure it's getting me through the next season. But the knowledgeable technicians that come out, I love because they're able to answer my questions about things that I'm concerned about, things that go wrong. They've walked me through the process of when I'm going to be purchasing a new HVAC system and explained to me what you need, what you don't need, what will get you through with your new unit. And I love the honesty. Tons of people have the same feeling about Classic Air Care like I do. Like, look at this one from Carolyn from the Google reviews. Brian, excellent service, politeness, knowledge. His explanation was much needed in layman's terms and helped me and my husband figure out how to handle our HVAC system. Give him a call today. Tell him Alex Ferrario sent you. It's Classic Air Care and ClassicAirCare.com.
Tanner Henderson here with a Sports Center update driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. Cardinals fell to the Pittsburgh Pirates yesterday 2-1. They'll be back in action tonight. 6:45 will be first pitch as Sonny Gray will be on the mound for St. Louis. And tonight here on 101 ESPN, it's We Went Blues Day. And if you missed earlier today on the show, we had a chance to talk to the Stanley Cup champion goaltender Jordan Binnington. If you missed it, you can check it out on the podcast page, 101ESPN.com. And tonight here on 101 ESPN at 6 o'clock, you can rehear Game 7 of that Stanley Cup run between the Blues and the Bruins. And following that, we'll have tip-off of Game 3, the NBA Finals between the Dallas Mavericks and the Boston Celtics. This Sports Center update is driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. See them at londoff.com. Chevy, together we drive. Are you kidding me?
Breaking ball, that's hammered towards center, and Sawinski dives and can't make the play. Burleson has the first Cardinal hit. It comes with one out in the fourth inning.
With Alex and T-Bone on BK, you got BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. That's what it sounded like last night on Bally Sports Midwest. Alec Burleson getting a hit against Paul Skeens, the first hit of the night, if I'm not mistaken, for the St. Louis Cardinals. Alec Burleson is one of the rare Cardinals players, Alex, that I expect to succeed against quality pitching. Baseball Reference has a really good stat. It's a split about how you do against power pitchers versus finesse pitchers. And what they mean by that, their description of it, power pitchers are in the top third of the league in strikeouts plus walks. So basically, they're guys that go out there and they're going to blow it past you, right? Most of the league, as you would expect, struggle against those kinds of pitchers. Not Alec Burleson. Alec Burleson so far this season against power pitchers is batting .278 with an OPS of .772. For perspective, that is 30% above the league average compared to what most do against power pitchers. So you probably think, okay, BK, but what is he doing against the finesse guys, the guys that are going out there without a whole lot of swing and miss stuff? Well, against them, he's batting .310 with a slugging percentage of .530, 40% above league average offensively. So if you go out there with the power pitcher, he's got a game plan. If you go out there against a guy like Miles Mikolas, for example, he's got a game plan. Alec Burleson is just a really good hitter. His expected numbers suggest that all of this is real. None of this is fake. None of this is just getting by with lucky batted ball luck, Alex. Alec Burleson has arrived and has become the player that the Cardinals hoped he would be. That is not to suggest that he's a superstar. He's not a replacement for Nolan Arenado or for Paul Goldschmidt, but this is a really good hitter, and he's the type of hitter that it succeeds in the postseason against the type of pitching that you'll see in October.
He's the guy that they've been desperate for. They've been desperate for a guy that just can consistently be great. And I think you've had that in your MVPs with Paul Goldschmidt and Nolan Arenado, but beyond those two guys, you've just had inconsistency. You've had guys that have shimmers of hope, guys that you're like, oh man, this guy's going to be great. And then it fades away, and you're like, wait, where did that go? I mean, think of Dylan Carlson and Tyler O'Neill and Harrison Bader, and weird I'm saying all these outfielders, but you've never had the guy that almost every single time he steps to the plate or in a game, you're thinking, I know what he's going to provide me. He's going to provide me really good at-bats. He's not going to strike out a lot, and he's going to come up with at least multiple hits in a game. And that's what Alec Burleson has been. So to win at the highest level in baseball, you need your stars. You need your superstars. That's the Goldschmidt, Arenado, the Wilson Contreras. But you can't win without certain guys like this. And I think in the same level that we've put Mason Wynn in terms of this guy is going to be a pillar for the Cardinals, I'm starting to wonder if Alec Burleson's going to push his way into that conversation because of the type of hitter he is.
Yeah, he feels like the guy that you feel comfortable with in a big-time situation that could come up in the clutch in the playoffs, not just the regular season. Because the regular season, yeah, you got to have those guys. But over 162 games, you may not notice it as much. Where they've really been lacking is someone to come through in the playoffs for them. And I think Alec Burleson feels like that guy. We mentioned it a little bit earlier in the show today of, who are the three guys you trust right now at the plate? I'd go Burleson probably right there with Mason Wynn as 1A, 1B, and then Nolan Gorman. And those are the guys that they've been missing. You think back to the playoff run of 21, who the guys all froze at the plate. Arenado hit the ball hard, but ran into some bad luck. Yeah. Goldie didn't come through. O'Neill really froze. Think of the 22 playoff run, what happened. Goldie and Arenado were seeing ghost. They need somebody like this. And yes, they still need those superstars to play like that. They still need Goldie and Arenado to get going. They've got to have the complementary pieces that really solidify the lineup 1 through 5, 1 through 6, and that's what Burleson is. He's a nice, really good complementary player that I don't know will ever be a superstar or a star, but man, he is the kind of player that you really need in a lineup to lengthen it out.
So far this year, he has at least one hit in 38 of the 58 games in which he has participated. He's just consistently hitting the baseball, man. And it's something that this team has desperately needed as a guy that you can just count on. A left-handed bat that you can count on to get on base. And Burleson is one of those guys. And the other thing is he does it in a way that is super old school. Like, when you've got a runner on base, and I haven't looked at his runners in scoring position numbers. Maybe they're bad this year, but I would expect over the course of his career, they'll be pretty good. He does something that so few people do now, which is put the ball in play. Like, Alec Burleson understands what the situation calls for. He's going to put the ball in play, and he's not up there to take walks. And it's not a super comfortable profile because there will be times like last year where over the course of a month, for whatever reason, just not dropping. They're line drives that are flying right at a player that has been positioned perfectly. And because of that, because he doesn't walk a ton, because he is more of a free swinger, you're going to have some months where it feels like you're going through a pretty significant slump with Alec Burleson. That is part of the profile that you sign up for with this kind of a player. But the other part of it is there will be months where the balls do fly and they do end up getting out of the yard, or the defensive player just isn't perfectly positioned. That's what happened last night when he hits it to center field and the center fielder is not quite able to make a play, what would have been a really good play on it, but those balls drop, and then boom, if you got his guy on second, instead of him taking a walk and getting on first, I put it in play, got a hit, the guy scores from second base now. That is something that the Cardinals have been lacking. I think he's a prototypical two-hole hitter, 2.6, 2.5, something like that. That's where I would like to see him long-term. I think Mason Wynn has developed into quite a leadoff hitter at this point in his career. I think Nolan Gorman long-term can be in that 3, 4, 5 mix. I think probably 5 is where I would like to see him long-term. What you're missing right now is what they were supposed to have, which is at least 2 of Goldie, Arenado, Walker, Contreras being those 3-4 hitters. You're missing those guys in the middle of your order right now. The hope is 2 of them can emerge, and if they do, you've got the supplementary pieces now that make sense around them. But man, it shines a significant light, Alex. It spotlights their lack of a middle of the order, the lack of middle of the order production. When I'm seeing all of these other things, young players that are emerging, that are exactly what we hoped they could be this year, and it doesn't matter because the lack of the middle of the order bats.
It's why it's so infuriating with this Cardinals team, because like we always say, they never know how to get it all right at the same time. You're always chasing your tail to where, back in 21, when you had the MVP run of Arenado and Goldschmidt, you're thinking, oh man, you've got your offense right now. You just need to make sure your pitching's good to go. And there were no upgrades there. And then in 22, you started to see those complementary pieces, but then you saw Goldschmidt and Arenado dip off and the pitching was so bad. And now you've got your bullpen, you've got your supplementary pieces, you've got your pitching that is really good enough to keep you in the playoff conversation, but you don't have your your 2 biggest hitters. You're always chasing something, and this to me is going to be the hardest one to find. Like, you can go out there and bring in pitching, you can go out there and find the bullpen help, the supplementary pieces you kind of always felt like the Cardinals could find. Going out there and finding 2 bats that can carry your team through the lulls of the season, man, you're either spending a ton of money or you're making trades that now tilt the scale the other direction.
Yeah, they can't fix the middle of the order issue externally. It has to come from somewhere within. Whether that is Arenado turns a corner and gets back to being the Nolan Arenado that you knew and loved from Colorado and in 2022 with the Cardinals, or Wilson Contreras comes back and is healthy and kind of goes with Paul Goldschmidt, or Jordan Walker gets called up, or Nolan Gorman continues to hit the ball like he has been hitting for the majority of the season. They can't fix the middle of the order externally. Not this season. It's going to have to be fixed internally. Something's going to have to change for them to get that patch together here inside the organization, for them to have what we're talking about, the complementary pieces, the middle of the order, the pitching staff that's good enough to get you to the playoffs, and the bullpen that's elite.
He's Alex Ferrario. That's Tanner Hendrickson, and I'm Brandon Kiley. Alec Burleson really showing up at a big level right now, and we should not overlook, by the way, what I mentioned with Wynn and Gorman as well. Those three young guys are stepping up, man, and the Cardinals' offense around them has done nothing, and it means that ultimately most of our conversations skew negative, but those three dudes stepping up the way they have has been super impressive, and it's a lot of credit to the three of them for being able to do that. All right, coming up next, let's dive into the junk drawer here on 101 ESPN. With Alex and T-Bone on BK. Alex,
Yeah, Brandon.
what's going on in your personal life, man?
Oh, boy.
Well, I got a problem. And, you know, I feel like I'm an open book on this show. I feel people know a lot about my life. I'm very honest and upfront. I suffer from IBS, BK. I don't know if you know what that is. Irritable bowel syndrome.
Okay, good.
Hopefully people aren't eating lunch right now.
Okay.
So, because I suffer from that, I've got Hemis. People might say, what's Hemis? It's hemorrhoids.
Thanks for
They're not fun.
clarifying.
They are not fun. They're painful, some would say. I've tried the cream. I've tried the Preparation H. None of it works. So
I
I had to
should get you an endorsement for this.
Probably. This is my perfect opportunity. Or to get a demotion. So
If you or someone you know.
depending on the outcome of this segment, I'm either just going to be doing pre and post or T-Bone's going to have a promotion.
If you or someone you know has a company that can help Alex with his Hemi problem,
Yeah, if you have hemorrhoid issues.
and I'm not talking about the engine, please
No, not that Hemi.
help him out.
So I had to call the doctor. I was like, okay, I got to get this figured out. And I just assumed they were going to be like, yeah, suffering from this. Here's a cream. No, that's not it, BK. I had to check it out manually, and that wasn't very fun. And the outcome to it was, well, we're going to give you some suppositories. Me, who's never used one of those before, I'm like, what the hell is that?
My wife is an occupational therapist. She's used those before.
Has she? And so,
Not for
oh, okay.
for patients.
They gave they gave me the prescription. I go to the pharmacy. I get the prescription. I go home and I'm looking. I'm like, wait a minute. I got to do what with this?
You got to read the instructions.
Oh, found out what suppositories meant. Here's the issue that lies for me. And people that have used this probably have the same issue. The suppository won't stay, BK. Every time I try, boop, back out. Boop, back out. Talk to the doctor, and they're like, here's the problem, man. You got to make sure it's in there. And I said, look, man, it's in there. I'm making sure that it's in there. Like, we are talking further than anybody probably should be dealing with this. And it still won't work, and I still have Hemis. I don't know what to do. And frankly, I've learned that I don't like suppositories.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. This is a cry for help.
This
That's
is
what's happening
absolutely
right
a
now.
cry for help.
Alex Ferrario needs your help.
Yes.
You,
Hemis
the
are a
listening
problem.
audience, can give him a lending hand, not literally, but at least metaphorically speaking, and let him know what worked for you.
Yeah.
What did it? How did you find a way to
T-Bone,
overcome
what would you do in this situation?
your IBS and Hemi issues? And if you found something, or if you or someone you know is part of a company that can help him out and do some endorsement deals here on live radio,
Absolute plug.
you would love to do that as well.
Oh, shouldn't have used that word.
If you can help out my guy Alex Ferrario, he would definitely appreciate
Someone did
that.
just point out that I've had back-to-back poop talks for the junk drawer.
Yeah, good.
But really, what's the junk drawer for if we're not going to be honest and look for help? We bring our needs to BK and Ferrario. I'm an open book. I'm saying, here, help me. Asked the doctor for that, and they gave me a suppository. So apparently that didn't work. So now I need your help.
Somebody said limit acidic food.
Limit what?
Yeah, acidic food. You know what I
Yeah,
mean.
well,
Coming up next.
Here's the thing. I can't do that.
Miles Mikolas deserves some credit. I've given him a lot of crap this year. His last 6 starts
Come on,
deserve
man.
a little bit of the.
Better use of a word, okay? Some people suffer from
His
this.
last 6 starts deserve proper context, and we need to give him the credit that he has earned. We'll talk about that next year on 101 ESPN.
Alex Ferrario with you to talk about my friends over at Rhino Shield. Darren was messaging me a couple of weeks ago because of that hailstorm that we got, and he was sending me pictures from some houses. He sent me houses that haven't used Rhino Shield, and he sent me houses that have used Rhino Shield, and there is a massive difference. When you use Rhino Shield for the exterior of your home, your business, the elements of weather don't deteriorate it. So all of the rain, you don't have to worry about that. It's 100% waterproof. When you get that hail damage. You're not going to see the dents on the side of the house or the paint chipping off because of that hail damage. It's able to withstand. It's because they use a 2 to 3 coating process of a ceramic paint that basically sticks 8 to 10 times thicker than any other paint you're going to buy at a hardware store. So you know it's going to be withstand whatever comes your way and last you the longevity of your home. It's backed by a 25-year transferable warranty. I did this 3 years ago. My house still looks brand new. So give Darren a call today. Tell him Alex Ferrario sent you and change the outlook of your exterior. 877-25-RHINO. That's 877-25RHINO.com.
All right, I give in. I give the credit where it is due. Miles Mikolas has been awesome. 6 straight starts now where he has given the Cardinals exactly what they needed. Alex, in his last 6 starts, he has 5 quality starts. He's gone 36 innings for the Cardinals. He has a 3.0 ERA in those 6 starts. And maybe most importantly, and this is part of pitching the way that he does, it's good when it's good, it's bad when it's bad, and a lot of it is based on the batted ball luck. He is allowing opposing hitters to get just a 184 batting average against. Now, let's get into the nerdy numbers of it. Opposing hitters have a 202 batting average on balls in play against Miles Mikolas in this 6-game stretch. That is wildly unsustainable because they hit the ball pretty hard against him a decent amount, and right now they're not dropping. That is going to change. There will come a point in time sooner rather than later where Mikolas does not have these same numbers because he so significantly relies upon batted ball luck. But right now it is, and he's giving the Cardinals the innings that they are desperately lacking from a lot of the other guys in this rotation. So credit where it's due. Miles Mikolas yesterday, yes, against a bad lineup, but basically almost, 6 innings of no-hit ball? Mm-hmm. It was a hell of a start by Miles Mikolas.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I still find myself not believing it and feeling like it's one of those flash in the pans where it's Miles Mikolas hitting really or performing really well, but it fades away pretty quick, kind of like what we saw last year. But here's the thing. I can doubt it all I want. I'm seeing what the Cardinals need if they want to have sustained success. Now, obviously, we're talking about offense, the reason this team is struggling so much. But if this is the Miles Mikolas that you can get in spurts, even if he has 4 starts that just are ugly like the beginning of the season, if he can get back to this and give me 6 to 8 starts of this type of pitching, I'm putting myself in a position to at least be in the playoffs. And then the question will come when you're ready to have that big moment. Is Miles Mikolas going to be this, or is he going to be the previous version? But you are seeing, if you're the Cardinals, what you need if you want to believe that you have a shot this postseason.
Yeah, I don't believe it.
I don't either. Last year he did this 2 separate times.
I don't believe that this is real. I think that what you're seeing from Miles Mikolas, and this is not to take away from anything that he has accomplished. I want to make that very clear. I think what you are seeing is the good and the bad of being a pitcher like this. I think you see it with Andre Palante. It's the same style of pitching. Now, they go about it a little bit differently. Palante has more velo. Mikolas, I think, has a little bit better command. But when you are dealing with guys that do not strike out the opposition, you are relying almost exclusively on the batted ball luck. There will be certain games where that goes your way, and there will be a lot of others that don't. And in the last 6, he's had 5 of them that the batted ball luck, for the most part, has gone his way. And guys behind him are making really impressive plays. Last night, dude, what you saw from Nolan Arenado, that was an amazing play. Got a couple of good plays by Mason Wynn as well. But overall, this is just not a sustainable way to pitch. Not at the level of a number 2. And that's what he's been for 6 starts now. He's been a number 2 starter with a 3.0 ERA. You can live with that from your number 2. I think what he's been over the course of the season, though, is like a number 4. He's a guy that you can rely on now to get into 6 innings. He's kind of like Kyle Gibson, like a lesser version of Kyle Gibson. If Gibson was your 3 and Mikolas was your 4 and Lynn is your 5, that's an okay starting rotation, honestly. You could live with that. Their problem is everybody is trying to be one step higher than what they're capable of being. It's the Peter principle. That's what the Cardinals rotation has been all season long.
Yeah, and I'm with you 100%. I do think what he's doing now is a little bit more sustainable because I think his stuff looks crisper. You know,
That's fair.
I think he's back to, if you're going to throw 92, you have to be painting the corners, and I think he's doing a better job of that. But I'm with you. I don't know if you can have a guy that pitches to contact as a 2 in modern baseball, in this current version of baseball. When the shift was there, I think you could.
2022, he was a 2.
Yeah, exactly. And I think you could get away with that in the playoffs because you had the shift, and the shift could help kind of minimize some of the damage of the balls being put in play. But now that is gone, I just don't know if you can be a guy that pitches to contact that can be seriously viewed as a number 2 starter. I think you're right. He's probably a number 4 that, like, questionably maybe makes your playoff rotation.
All right, so tonight you got Sonny Gray on the mound. He's your number 1. There's no doubt about it. He's your unquestioned number 1. You need more out of him, but he's your number 1 starter. You should win this game.
Oh, we said about Colorado.
You need to win this game. You have an advantage on the mound. Now, Bailey Falter is better than what I would expect otherwise so far this year. He's a 3.7 ERA on the season. He's been pretty good for them. I'm not buying it.
Doesn't bode well.
You should have an advantage on the mound today. You also should have your high leverage relievers available again today. We'll see, but you should. So you should win this game. Alex, I am curious. You now have 2 more left against Pittsburgh. Then you've got the Cubs, you've got Miami, San Francisco, Atlanta, Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, Washington, Chicago, and a 2-game set against Kansas City. Got a lot of games over the next 10 series against teams that are right in this middle with you. They're all, for the most part, in this wild card race. You can take out Atlanta, you can take out Miami, you can take out the 2-game series against Kansas City. Everything else is against teams that are currently competing for that 2nd or 3rd wild card spot with you. They're right there, right under or right above 500. How much do you think the next month of play? It's June 12th right now. The end of the first half of the season, the All-Star break, begins on July 15th. So we're basically 1 month away now. How much does what the Cardinals do in the next month influence what they are going to do at the trade deadline in your mind? Within realistic outcomes. Yeah. I don't think this team's going to go on this crazy miraculous stretch.
And that's the only way that I would look at it and say I'm not going to be sellers, is if you catch the Milwaukee Brewers and are in the NL Central lead. And I don't see that happening. And so I think if we're in the conversation, and look, you're a half game out right now. Nobody's buying into this Cardinals team unless you're conductor BK over here. You can go on and win a couple of series and lose a couple of series. But unless you're talking about being the Milwaukee Brewers, I'm selling Ryan Helsley. I don't really think you have many other pieces to sell on this team. And I mean, if you want to talk fire sale, fine, I'll listen to it. You got one piece. And unless I'm talking about a team that looks like they could actually do damage in the playoffs, I'm selling Ryan Helsley. You're not going to get Wilson Contreras back probably until after the All-Star break. And I don't believe he's going to be 100% until probably post-trade deadline. The same can be said about Lars Nootbaar. So I'm not going to know anything about this offense that can convince me that they can do damage in the playoffs by the trade deadline. So I'm going to be looking to bring in assets for something that teams are desperate for.
Yeah, I think for me, it comes down to, can you separate yourself from this group? If you do, then I can understand where you can decide to become a buyer and be in the wild card picture and look to add some pieces. And maybe you add a Severino that goes into that rotation and helps, and you decide to hold on to Helsley. But if you're still kind of where they are today, which is like around 500, kind of still stuck in the middle, there's like 4 teams that are still in this conversation. Unless I see better baseball in that stretch, which I don't think I would if that's the case, then yeah, Helsley's on the market. I think it all comes down to what they do before the All-Star break, because this is where we've talked about this, I think on air and off the record, or off the air, of June is when we typically see separation in the wild card picture. When you look at the 16 playoff field over the last 2 years, separation really occurs in June. So my guess is
are these teams capable of that though?
I think somebody becomes capable of it, because I think it takes a hot streak to just separate yourself. I think if somebody can go on a win 10 of 15 or 11 of 16, 11 of 15, that team's going to separate themselves, because everybody else continues to play this roller coaster baseball where it's win loss win loss win loss. Somebody's going to do it this month. And I think the Cardinals have the chance to do it this month because of their schedule, because they are playing everybody else that's in this muddy middle. 7 of their next 10 series are against teams that are in the muddy middle, along with a series against the Braves, who are the top wild card. And if I'm being honest with you, they're not really a scary team to me anymore without Strider and Ronald Acuna. So I think this stretch of series here, these next 10 series, can really determine what they are. And if they're just stuck in the middle, or they really start to fall behind to where you have to be looking up and look at 4 or 5 different teams ahead of you, you're a seller, in my opinion.
So I think there are, as a follow-up to this, are you guys talking about what you think they should do or what they will do?
Should do.
Because will do, I know exactly what they're going to do. They're going to hold on to everybody.
I was just making sure we were all on the same page, because I think that what you guys are saying speaks a lot for what the fans are believing in as well. I don't know that that's how the Cardinals feel. I don't think the Cardinals see a scenario within realistic outcomes in which they are a seller at the trade deadline. I don't think they see it. And I don't either. I don't know that I agree with Tanner that one of these teams is going to pull away in the month of June. I think these teams aren't as good as the teams that we've seen battling for that final wild card spot in the last couple of years. If there's going to be somebody that emerges the way that Arizona did last year, it probably happens here in the next month or so. I just don't know that somebody's going to, man. I don't think these teams, any of them, are very good. None of them have a full allotment of their roster where I look at it and I'm like, not a lot of holes there. Dude, we watched that Pittsburgh game last night, right? We all watched that together. That's a team that's a mirror image of you in terms of record. That lineup stinks, dude. They are not good offensively. And when Paul Skeens isn't on the mound, when Jared Jones isn't on the mound, they're going to have some troubles this year to be able to put together consistent winning efforts. Chicago has an offense that is worse than yours right now. They look like one of the worst teams in the National League currently. What you did at the beginning of the year, that's what Chicago is now. And people up in Chicago are talking about, are they going to be a seller now at the trade deadline because of it? I saw yesterday one of their columnists in Chicago said, this team is an absolute nightmare. They're a disaster, and they are not a well-constructed roster. Sound familiar? I just don't know. San Francisco has nobody to lean on. They have no stars. Like Cincinnati, I just don't see it with them. Maybe they're going to be a team that's capable of it. Washington isn't ready for something like that. These teams, none of them appear to me to be ready to go on any kind of a run. And I don't think the Cardinals are either, because they don't have the offense to do it.
To me, the deadline is when they're going to separate themselves. And the best case scenario for the Cardinals is to get a number 5 starter. I can see the Cubs buying big if they opt to do that. I can see the Padres buying big if they opt to do that. And I can see the Diamondbacks doing that.
I don't think there's any chance of the Cubs buying big at the deadline, unless it's for future seasons as well. Like if they went to the deadline and it was like, hey, Vlad Guerrero Jr. is available for the next 2 years. Like, okay, sure, yeah, make that move. But otherwise, I don't see them being a team that is buying it.
But that's what
I think they are done.
But that's what I mean. If something presents themselves to make them better now and for the future, they will be aggressive and do that. And I don't see the Cardinals being aggressive. And that's where I feel like at least a couple of teams can separate themselves from the pack.
Yeah, San Diego will be aggressive. I think Arizona's going to be aggressive because they've spent all this money on this team that they've constructed that's underperforming, mostly because their pitching is hurt.
Yeah, they know why they're in this position.
I just have, and maybe this is more philosophy for me than it is anything else. I have a tough time putting assets into a team that's below 500. That, to your point, if nobody separates themselves, the Cardinals are still probably a 500 team. I have a very tough time putting more assets into what I don't think's a good team.
Agreed.
Fair. I think this team looks a lot different if you add Wilson Contreras to it. I think this team looks a lot different if Jordan Walker at that point is ready to go. I think this team looks a lot different if Lars Nootbaar is ready to go. It sounds like Riley O'Brien is close as well, and that's not like this huge piece, but it helps you. Another nice right-handed reliever that you can put into the bullpen. I'm not trying to sell a bag of goods to Cardinals fans. You guys are smart. You see what's going on out there. This isn't a very good team. But can they emerge as the number 3 wildcard team? Sure. Yeah. I don't think anybody's pulling away. And so for my answer on the question that we asked at the beginning of the segment, what does this next month mean for them? I think they're probably going to play pretty similar. They're going to be this up and down team that on certain nights looks really good, other nights looks really bad. There's going to be a lot of frustrating losses as well because they're going to play a lot of close games. They're 500 in those games so far this year. And at the end of it, I think you're going to get into the All-Star break and say to yourself, I think we all know what this Cardinals team is, but because of the National League, they're probably buyers. That's how I think that everybody's going to be viewing it, unless you just want them to sell, which I understand, but I don't think the Cardinals are going to do that. Coming up next, what did we make of Nolan Arenado last night? We'll talk about it here on 101 ESPN.
the score, an instant classic in St. Louis tonight.
That's what it sounded like last night on Bally Sports Midwest. A couple of great plays defensively last night by Nolan Arenado. There was that one, the double play at third base, and then he had the play where he was able to come up on the bunt, end up throwing out the guy at third base. That is an aggressive move that the Cardinals practice a lot. Not a lot of third basemen, they'll make that play. They'll just throw it over to first potentially in that spot. He was aggressive with it, like it, get the lead runner out at third base. With Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. Alex, I thought that was one of the better games that we've seen from Nolan Arenado so far this season. Now, low bar to clear. He had a double, ended up going 2 for 4 in the game, and his last at-bat was terrible. Like, absolutely abysmal, gave the team no chance in that spot. That being said, defensively, he was amazing, and that's been an issue over the last month or so. Is there any sense that maybe this could be a jumping-off point for you, anything like that?
No. Okay. No, I'm to the point now where you can show me one good game by Nolan Arenado, and I'll say, cool, what'd you back it up with? Because we
benched him for one of those.
Well, that was Oli's fault, which bad managerial decision, right, BK? He did this in the Diamondbacks earlier in the season where he hit a home run and he had a double in the game, I think. It was like a 3-hit performance, and everyone was like, oh, he's back. And then he went 0 for like his next 5 games. Did it against the Reds. Cardinals sat him, and then he never got back to it. I won't buy into Nolan Arenado being back to the Nolan Arenado that we thought he was going to be until I see it for a week stretch. That's when I could start looking at it and say, cool, you fixed something. Because I think right now, and I'm not taking it away from him, he had an awesome game last night. He saved the game for the Cardinals up until the bottom of the 9th when it got away from him. But I've seen this before with Arenado, where you've made big plays, you've had a big hit, you've come away with a home run, and you're thinking, man, he figured it out. And then he didn't. So I love it from Arenado. I wish we could get him back to that MVP level, but I'm not going to fall for it because of one game.
Yeah, I'm with you. I got to see it for like a week and a half before I can really buy into what you see from Nolan Arenado from the plate. I think defensively he can figure that stuff out. It's the offense that worries me. And even last night, for how good a game it was, and it was, I'm not even going to question, it was his best game all around last night. The fact that I saw just the non-competitive at-bat, didn't really make Bednar work. It was good morning, good afternoon, good night in that at-bat. That right there just tells me he's still kind of lost at the plate. When I think of Nolan Arenado, when he's clicking, whether that's last year, 2022, there's not a lot of those at-bats. And the fact that it still came in one of his best games of the season, and I understand Bednar's a good reliever, it just tells me he's still lost at the plate. So until I see it for a week and a half where it looks sustainable, then I'm going to be willing to buy into Nolan Arenado.
The big problem is he's just still not pulling hard hit fly balls. Since the start of the Houston series, so you're going back a couple of weeks here, he's had 5 hard hit pulled fly balls, and most of those end up being singles. Like the one that you probably remember is the home run that he had off of Blanco. It goes right down the left field line, ends up in the Crawford boxes. But other than that, it's just been a whole lot of kind of the same stuff that we've seen all year. Straight away, going the other way, pull. Straight away, going the other way, pull. He's just trying to hit to all fields. And I don't know if that's a concerted effort by him or if it's something that's just a problem mechanically, a problem with timing. There could be a lot of stuff going on there. But one of the things that I want to see from Nolan Arenado is just like a 2-week stretch where he's just pulling everything. And for most hitters, that's a bad sign. For a lot of hitters, if they are pulling everything, especially if it's not in the air, it ends up being an issue for him, and they get too pull happy. For Nolan Arenado, that's when he's at his best, man. He needs to pull stuff in the air and hit it hard. If you do those 3 things, if you're Nolan Arenado, you can get yourself back on track. But I'm not seeing it from him. He's not hitting anything hard. He's bottom 5 percentile in Major League Baseball in terms of average exit velo this year. His expected slugging percentage is like 350. There's nothing in the underlying numbers that I can point to at this point in time and say, there's this. He's not striking out a lot. Last night in the 9th inning, notwithstanding, but he's not striking out a lot. He's still making contact a decent amount. He's just not hitting it hard. He's not hitting it in the air. He's not hitting it to the pull side. And when you don't have those 3 things as Nolan Arenado, you're not going to have a lot of success at the plate. What I would see as a sign of encouragement from last night for him is the defense. That's got to be something that sustains. Because they cannot overcome bad offense and bad defense from Nolan Arenado. Just not something that's tenable for this team. And for most of the last month or 2, that's been the case. Too many errors, too many missed plays, non-plays by him is what I think Oli Marmol called him over the weekend. He can't be one of those guys. You get that from Nolan Gorman, it is what it is. You can live with it. He's hitting the ball 100 miles an hour. It is what it is. And he's not a natural second baseman. He's going to be average defensively there. You know that's coming. Not from Nolan. Not from the other Nolan. Not from Arenado. If the bat doesn't start heating up, though, Alex, is there going to come a point in time where you got to move this dude down in the order? Like Wilson Contreras gets back, let's say, maybe if and when Nootbaar returns. If this thing doesn't get righted, I know he's batting fifth a decent amount right now because Nolan Gorman has emerged as their cleanup hitter. Is there going to be a point in time where he maybe has to hit sixth or seventh in the Cardinals lineup?
Sixth or seventh, man. The answer is yes, but I think you're going to have a lot of things go right. When you're healthy, I can name 4 batters that are better than Goldschmidt and Arenado that should be hitting above them. It would be Gorman, it would be Burleson, Mason Wynn, and Wilson Contreras. Those 4 guys should be hitting in front of those 2 because those are your best hitters. And then from there, you get into the conversation of, okay, well, Lars Nootbaar, what's he look like? If Jordan Walker, since we're going when healthy, what does he look like? The guys that Goldschmidt and Arenado should be hitting above right now are Brendan Donovan, Michael Ciani, and all of these other hitters. And having them in your 3-4 or your 3-5 or your 4-5, I just don't think that's good enough. You've got better hitters on your roster right now when you're healthy.
I don't even know if it's a Goldie conversation right now. I think it's just Nolan Arenado.
I agree.
I think the toughest task for Oli Marmol this season, and probably the toughest task he's had in his 3 years, is now managing Nolan Arenado. Because I think there's going to be a time when he's going to have to bump him out of 5. I think it's ridiculous he's even hitting 4th against lefties right now. He's terrible against left-handed pitching this season. And I understand
and Gorman's been pretty good.
Yeah, and I understand the whole, it's Nolan Arenado. At some point, it's no longer Nolan Arenado. At some point, it is a new Nolan Arenado that they have to start managing. And when they do get healthy, I'm with Alex. Wilson Contreras is sliding into that top 5. I think Lars Nootbaar slides into, if not the top 5, the top 6. So all of a sudden, I'm looking at this lineup going, okay, so where am I hitting Arenado? It might be 7th, but that is going to be a tough conversation for Oli Marmol to have. This isn't just managing a aging veteran, which he had with Yadi and Auer, because the main task there was, okay, we just got to try and keep them healthy and make sure that they're not on their feet and
get
fresh.
Get them their at-bats, get them in the right situation,
exactly.
See if they can hit against righties, and if not, we'll pull back. If they can, we'll keep going forward. This is a very different situation.
This isn't that. This is Nolan Arenado, who's not at that point in his career yet because he's not in his late 30s. This is a superstar that's not playing like a superstar that you now have to adjust and kind of change his role. This is like in the NBA when you see like a Russell Westbrook going from a starting point guard to being the 6th man off the bench, 7th man off the bench. That's
Carmelo
where Arenado's
Anthony,
at
remember
right
when
now.
Melo was like, I'm not a 6th man.
Yeah.
I'm not signing to be a 6th man with somebody. That's not my role.
And that's where the tough part comes. Is Oli Marmol at some point is going to have to go, Nolan, I'm sorry, man, but you've got to be our 7th-hole hitter. And if you're Nolan Arenado, you got to make that adjustment as well.
How long do you think it's been since Nolan Arenado hit below 5th in the lineup? In the bottom half of the order?
I'd say since his rookie year, so whatever year that was, 2012.
2014. The last time that and that was his 2nd full season in the big leagues. His first full season in the big leagues, he was a below league average hitter. 2nd full season, he kind of emerged, good hitter, but wasn't the Nolan Arenado that we know yet, and then that happened in 2015. But 2014, he was batting 6th and 7th regularly in the Rockies lineup. He has not hit 6th or lower in a lineup since then. That's going to be the conversation that Oli Marmol has to have with him, because whenever Wilson Contreras returns, he should be batting 6th. There is no argument to bat him regularly, at least, above 6th in this lineup. None. There isn't one that you can make that is backed by any kind of number. Not a single one other than, but it's Nolan Arenado. That's the only way you can back it.
Can I be honest? I think that moment is going to be the downfall of the Cardinals this season.
What do you mean?
I don't think you can have a honest conversation between Oli and Arenado and that not cause drama with this roster. I think that's
the job, though.
I get it, but I think that's ego on ego. And somebody is going to turn that into what it shouldn't be, and it's going to take this team down a hole that I don't think they want to go.
Because the lineup should be Wynn, Burleson, Contreras, Gorman, Goldie, and then either Donovan or Arenado, depending on how they want to structure that. I'm sure they'll go Arenado there, and then Donovan, and then you get to your catcher and center fielder. Yeah. That should be the way that they structure it, and that's prior to, I'm talking about the first decision that they got to make, because I think Contreras is ahead right now of Lars Nootbaar in terms of his return to play. But that should be the way that they go about it. There's a lot of time between now and then. Weird stuff happens. Maybe there's another injury. Maybe this all ends up solving itself. But you got to have that conversation. There will come a point in time. Or Arenado's got to start hitting. One of those two things has to happen. There's no other way that this can go. Chris Kerber, voice of the Blues, joins us next on We Went Blues Day here on 101 ESPN.
Hey, Chris Kerber with you here. You know, when you've got to call a service company for any kind of repair at your house, it's a personal process because you want to trust the people that are coming into your house. Well, that's what you have with Classic Air Care. They treat their employees so well. They treat their employees right. They make sure that their tenure, if they're coming from another company, is held up. They make sure that they've got all the things that they need to do the job right. And when you treat employees that way with that kind of respect, that clearly trickles down to the customer. And that is why with Classic Air Care, you get a Google rating of 4.8 when it comes to the reviews. And you can see exactly what I'm talking about. Log on to classicaircare.com, click on their Google reviews, which is right at the top of the page, and you can see the great reviews for yourself. Now, look, the air conditioning time of the summer is here. Make sure that your unit, if you haven't had it checked out, is checked out to avoid some repairs. If you need repairs, you know that you can count on the folks at Classic Air Care to get out to your house quickly, get the repairs done right, make sure you're satisfied, and make sure you're living comfortably. It's Classic Air Care. You can book an appointment online at classicaircare.com. And, of course, they've been keeping people comfortable since 1926.
Terry Hendricks here with a Sports Center update brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling. The Cardinals fell to the Pirates yesterday 2-1. Back in action tonight, 6:45 will be first pitch. Sonny Gray will be on the mound for St. Louis. And today is We Went Blues Day. And if you missed our interview with the Blues Stanley Cup champion goaltender Jordan Binnington, you can check that out on our podcast page. Go to 101ESPN.com. You can also check it out on the free 101 ESPN app. We'll hear from the voice of the Blues, Chris Kerber, coming up here next on BK and Ferrario. And tonight here on 101 ESPN at 6 o'clock, we will replay Game 7 of the Stanley Cup championship against the Blues and the Bruins. And then right after that, we'll have Game 3 of the NBA Finals between the Celtics and the Mavericks. The Sports Update was brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, an independent American Standard heating and air conditioning dealer.
Seconds remaining. Get up, St. Louis. Get on your feet. Raise them high. 5 seconds to go, and the time winds down. They did it. It's over. The game is over. The series is over. The wait is over. And the St. Louis Blues are the Stanley Cup champions for the first time in franchise history.
Yes, it is We Went Blues Day here on 101 ESPN, the 5-year anniversary of the Blues winning the Cup. That was Chris Kerber, the voice of the Blues, on the call, and he joins us now via the 101 ESPN hotline. Kerbs, appreciate the time as always, man. Happy We Went Blues Day to you and yours.
BK, it's a great day in Blues history, and honestly, it just makes me want to do it again. So hopefully we get back there quickly.
We talked earlier today with Jordan Binnington. We heard on the morning show from Carl Gunnarsson and the Blues captain, Braden Shin. Petro Parayko will be on with the Fast Lane later on this afternoon as well. The guys on the Last Minute Blues podcast are talking to David Perron tomorrow. We've had a lot of memories that have been shared over the last few hours, Curbs. What's your long-standing memory that when somebody asks you about the Blues run to the Cup, whether it was one of the games, a moment, whatever, what's the memory that immediately comes to mind for you?
It's just the way that this city gripped the ride. The whole season wound up being special considering you had a coaching change and, the potential a few weeks before the trade deadline of do you blow this thing up and move some key pieces and move forward to have it do what it did. And, the stories of so many different of the players and how things went, but it just the way it built with the city and ended in that parade is my biggest overwhelming memory here. I mean, I'm watching some of the games that are on today, and there's some aspects of those games I kind of forgot about. but I haven't forgotten about the way the city embraced everything. And to me, that's the biggest one. And then honestly, guys, it's something a little bit more. And Alex, I know, got to be on the ice after Game 7. So he felt this, but we had such an amazing group of people behind the scenes that we traveled with, at the time, and Trevor Nickerson and Mike Caruso and Tim Pabst and Phil Malika and obviously John Kelly, Darren Pang, Joe Vitale, being a part of that, and our PR team with Brett and with Dan. And this was such an amazing group of people to travel with that we got a picture of just about all of us in this picture with the cup after the game. And the evenings on the road, the times in the hotel for that whole ride was special because we shared it with all those guys. And that to me is as big a memory as anything else is those guys that we were traveling with at the time, going through it with them.
Kerbs, for somebody who covered the Blues, starting in 2000, you saw a lot of ups and downs with the St. Louis Blues. Did you ever take a moment following that Stanley Cup finale to just kind of sit back and think for yourself how you got there?
No. Actually, no, I still haven't done that in terms of how I got here. I will share this with you. Like, I did not get drunk until the Stanley Cup left St. Louis, and everything was pretty much done, and it was on its way to the players.
That's
literally
impressive.
Even that night, I'd have a beer here and there, but I wanted to do what I could to write down and remember as much as I could, and really take it all in. And then when we took vacation up in Massachusetts later on the year, I got absolutely ripped. But prior to that, literally the moment we drove into my father-in-law's house in Pittsfield, Massachusetts, right? I said, okay, pour a rum and Coke and let's get going.
When Kerbs is trying to get, in your words, ripped, what is the drink of choice? Is it rum and Coke?
And how long does it take?
Listen, you're over like 220 pounds. It could take you a little longer, but no, I think I think I had if I remember this right, I had a Jack and Ginger, not a rum and Coke. Actually, it was a Jack and Ginger because my father-in-law loves those. Then I went straight to just straight Jack, and then probably finished with beer, and in the end, I slept the whole next day.
That's the way to do it, though. You start there, you get stronger, and then you say, okay, let's round this the third base and take it home with just the beer and close it down.
That's Kerb's plan to get drunk after a Stanley Cup, and Alex's plan whenever he gets to a golf course.
Yeah, I mean, the same thing. Hey, Kerbs, that's like 4 or 5 days before you got, quote, ripped. I think it took me like 2 days. My dad was ready to do it by the time I got home, and I'm like, man, I got Cardinals pre and post I got to do before we can do this.
Listen, it was longer than that. I mean, we went up for the first 2 weeks of July.
Oh, yeah, I guess that's true.
So much going on. There was so much going on, and we were so blessed and great that the team was kind enough where the broadcasters we had a small window each of us with the cup. So to be able to put that thing in my dad's lap and on my deck and share it like that. And the funny thing was I was just out with my dad just a couple of days ago, and he's got the pictures of him with the cup in his lap on his wall. And I said, man, it's kind of amazing to think that the Stanley Cup was just sitting there like on the deck, wasn't it? And he's like, yeah, it is. I go, I mean, you don't see that with the Lombardi Trophy. You don't see that with the World Series Trophy. You don't see that with, I don't know what do they call it? Do they call it the Stern Trophy? What's the NBA now? I don't know what that's called.
Larry O'Brien.
The Larry O'Brien. Yep. You don't see that with those. And you see it, but you do see it, right, with the Stanley Cup. And that is why when you think back at it and you look at the parade, and Alex, you shared that picture today with so many people got to touch that cup in the city of St. Louis because of the way the Blues handled it afterwards. And they handled it a lot differently than a lot of other teams have done. I mean, it showed up, and at the intermission of a Muni, it just showed up in the middle of the stage, and 12,000 people. Like, it connected with so many people. I just love how the city and the team activated with the cup even afterwards. But pretty amazing what these players did. Watching some of these games again and seeing what they're doing. There was a play where Alexander Steen, the puck went to the wall. He stayed in the middle of the ice. He had to loop back. He stayed in the middle. Like, I'm just going, man, the positional discipline that he had and commanded. And this team just played such great, good hockey to get there. Robert Bortuzzo taking a huge hit, and not retaliating that led to the power play goal of Tarasenko that made it 2-0 in the Game 6 against San Jose, which, by the way, it's not lost on me that the guy that passed Tarasenko the puck in Game 6 with a chance to go to the Stanley Cup final on the power play. Who passed him the puck on the power play?
That would be Colton Parayko. There you go, Curbs.
That would be Colton Parayko. So,
oh, God. We're going to have this conversation again, huh, Curbs?
Curbs is...
Well, we're good. You know what? I'm gonna start beating that drum a lot louder.
Curbs, there's two things that came away from that cup run. One, it was Colton Parayko being on the power play, and two, Alex coming up with great line nicknames because Shevchenko lives on.
No, it does not.
No.
Yes.
No,
the goal that was scored.
That's not in my top 10.
The goal that was scored, Shen from Schwartz and Tarasenko. Shevchenko.
We'll get you out of here on this. That way you don't have to listen to Alex.
Yeah, unfortunately, BK, we were one comment too long.
Yeah, you're not lying.
Way to go, guys.
When you look back at that team that won the cup for the St. Louis Blues and the way that they did it, is that the only way that the Blues can win the cup? Like, what do you think are some of the lessons that were learned from that team in terms of what they were roster-wise? And what are the things that maybe aren't necessary for whatever the next version of the Blues is that tries to make a cup? What are some of those things that, hey, that team had it, but we don't necessarily need to have that in the future?
Okay, that team did not have a superstar. Okay? That team did not have a superstar. So is it the only way? No, there are ways to do it. There are different ways to do it. That team maybe, depending on what Alex Pietrangelo, or maybe if one of the younger guys really does something, but there's definitely not a surefire Hall of Famer in the group, okay? And that is kind of pretty impressive. They won it as a team. So to me, I think the biggest thing you're taking out of it, and every one of these teams that has won the cup, whether it be the big defense, yes, they all have goaltending. It took a culture, and it was Craig Berube that fed the culture the right way, that got the players playing it the right way. And everybody bought into a culture. And I think moving forward to this next season, guys, as we hit to the draft, free agency, camp, the rookie tournament that's going to be here in St. Louis, and then on, to me, the biggest focus right now for the St. Louis Blues when they're looking at players has got to be culture and hockey IQ. Like, are they going to bring in the players that bring back and bring in some of a winning culture and the right attitude? And that, to me, is going to be critically important when you're bringing in young players, too, right? So those young players have to see it. You can't forget Tyler Bozak on this Cup team, and what he meant and things like that. So it was culture, to me, is the biggest difference. I think you can win in many different ways, but you cannot win without a complete team culture pulling in the right direction.
Hey, Curbs, appreciate the time as always, man. We look forward to these conversations each and every Wednesday. Happy We Went Blues Day to you. We'll talk with you again next week.
All right, fellas. Have an awesome week. Cheers.
Curbs. That's Chris Kerber, voice of the Blues, joining us as he does each and every Wednesday here on BK and Ferrario. One last thing, Alex, on this. When you look at the average age for that Blues team, it was 28 years old. Mm-hmm. Something that I find to be really interesting, and maybe this is a conversation that we can have for tomorrow. You look at the last 10 Stanley Cup champions, they're older. The average age is 28, 29 years old. You look at the two teams that remain right now. Florida's almost 30 on average. They're one of the 5 oldest teams in the NHL right now. Edmonton Oilers, 29 and a half. One of the 10 oldest teams in the NHL right now. The Blues are on like the opposite end of that spectrum in terms of their average age. Teams that are going for the cup, and some of this is just because of where they're at in their life cycle as an organization, they tend to be a little bit older. They have those guys that are in their primes or at the back end of their primes. They're battle tested.
You want to be in that you kind of want to be at that sweet spot, though, because you can get too old.
Absolutely,
and I think,
quickly.
I think Tampa's suffering from that right now. I think the New York Rangers, they've never been able to get to this level because, to me, they missed it, and now they're on the older end of it. So you do have to strike. It's rare you see something where you're getting at 26, 27, 28 years old.
Penguins and Capitals.
29, 30, I think, is that sweet spot. But if you get out of that fast, you're not going to be in that window.
With Alex and T-Bone on BK, the Rewind is next here on 101 ESPN.
Alex Ferrario with you to talk about my friend Tracy Bibb, who I know is also celebrating We Win Blues Day. A massive Blues fan Tracy Bibb is, but you should be celebrating making sure you've got the right insurance agent when you switch over to Tracy Bibb. We did so, I think it was about 6 years ago. My wife and I, Tracy taking care of our car, taking care of our home. What I love about Tracy is that customer service you hear me talk so much about. She's always in communication. When the prices change, when she's saving you certain money, what falls underneath the umbrella that you have, she's always in contact with you. And that gives you the comfort, the safety when it comes to your home, when it comes to your car, when something happens. They preach it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And Tracy Bibb and her team are there for you. Give her a call today. Tell her Alex Ferrario sent you. You heard me talk about it here on BK and Ferrario. She'll walk you through a free non-committal quote. Super simple. She'll even cancel your insurance for you so that you can get over with the Bibb agency. 314-328-4260. 314-328-4260. It's no fib. You're always in great hands with the Bibb.
314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. And if you text in right now in our texture number 101 with the correct answer to the question that I'm about to ask, you are getting a chance to score a pair of tickets to see Def Leppard and Journey with Cheap Trick. That is coming up on July 6th at Busch Stadium. Full details at 101ESPN.com or the 101 mobile app. But right now, 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. If you're texture number 101 with the correct answer to the following question, you are getting those tickets. Back in 2019, a young man by the name of Jordan Binnington became the Blues starting goalie. And when he ended up becoming the starting goalie, it gave them the confidence that they could go on to win the Cup, and that is exactly what they did. His origin story, though, started in a city other than St. Louis. Where was his first start for the St. Louis Blues back in 2019? If you have the correct city or your texture number 101, you're getting the pair of tickets to see Def Leppard and Journey with Cheap Trick on July 6th. All right, Alex, to finish out the show today, Cardinals obviously a tough loss for them last night. Let's go ahead and look forward to tonight's game against the Pittsburgh Pirates. This is a game, in my opinion, you got to win. Sonny Gray on the mound. You've got a clear and definitive pitching matchup advantage. You're going up against a guy that's been relatively successful this year in Bailey Falter, but you got the better dude. You got your number one on the mound. This has to be win day. You got to be able to stop the bleeding here. I think this is a game that they will win. They can win. They should win. I think they end up winning this thing 6-3.
They have to. Sonny Gray, the last two times you've called it a win day, you've lost with him on the mound.
Yep.
So, you have to back up Sonny Gray in this one. I do think they win. I think this is going to be a offensive disappointment once again, though. I think they pull out a 3-1 victory.
I'll say they win, and I say you see Sonny Gray get back on track. I think it's probably going to be low scoring because it's this offense, but
and that offense.
I think you see Gray
6-2.
get back on track and eat 6 innings tonight.
I think there's going to be 8 total runs tonight. Take
Looking
the under.
forward to that. We'll talk it over tomorrow. The Fast Lane has some great guests coming up today for you on We Went Blues Day. Happy We Went Blues Day to each and every one of you guys. Talk to you tomorrow. Fast Lane coming up next year on 101 ESPN.
Glory, Gloria, Gloria, Gloria. I think I got your number, Gloria.